Guess if everybody stops talking, it's time to call this meeting to order. Welcome everybody and happy Chinese New Year.
Oh yeah.
This is the year of the dog starting today, or last night China time. Yeah. So they've been celebrating the last little while. But Happy New Year to those of us who keep track of that. Goodbye to the rooster and hello to the dog. We remind everybody that this is being recorded, and so as you address the commission to please give your name and speak loudly into the microphone. This is also being streamed live on the internet, and we can be found by going to youtube.com/UtahDOT, or you can go to the UDOT homepage and find the link there. But we encourage everybody to speak loudly as they address the commission, so that the proceedings of the meeting can be properly archived. Thank you for being here. We want to start by having a few introductions. We'll introduce the commission first, then the UDOT personnel. We excuse Wayne Barlow, who has come down with a terrible cold. So he is unable to make the trip down and be with us, and didn't want to be infecting the rest of us with what he has. So we excuse Wayne, who represents Region 1. He's not with us today. Let's start to my right, Donna.
Good morning, Donna Law. I am a commissioner at large, and my home is in Cedar City, Utah. It's nice to be here.
Good morning, Nadi Zanadi from sunny and warm St. George. And I represent Region 4, 14 counties.
The warm's important. It's warm enough. I know. Megan Holbrook, Region 2, Salt Lake, Summit, and Tooele.
I'm Kent Millington. I represent Region 3 from Juab to Daggett counties across the central part of the state.
I'm Danny McConkey, and I'm a commissioner at large, and I live in Washington County. Thanks, Benagi.
Good morning, Lou Kramer. I live in lovely, sunny downtown Salt Lake City. Cold but sunny. And I'm a commissioner at large, but I wanted to report that this last week I met 2 people that actually watched the broadcast last time. So I've got to wear my nicest tie today.
Both of the people who watched it.
Both of them. They were shooting for a reality show on TV.
Yes, we certainly recognize Heather over here, our assistant that makes it all happen. And I'm sorry, I don't know the name of the person sitting next to you.
This is Michelle. This is Michelle Geronimo.
Okay. Michelle?
Zach Whitney with UDOT Communications.
Grant Potter with UDOT Communications.
Okay, Carlos?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Commissioner. Carlos Braceras with the Utah Department of Transportation.
Shane Marshall, Deputy Director of UDOT.
Would you like us to introduce the rest of the...
Yes, the rest of the UDOT people.
Randy, you want to start it off?
I'm Randy Park, Project Development. Joe Walker, UDOT Communications.
Chris Peterson, Region 1.
Lisa Wilson, Region 2.
Robert Miles, Traffic and Safety.
Jason Davis, Operations. Rob White, Central Construction.
Bill Lawrence, Programming.
Jordan Peterson, Region 2.
Nathan Lee, Program Development. Nathan Peterson, Region 1.
Carmen Tillman, Structures.
John Gleason, UDOT Communications.
Elizabeth Waite, Legislation and Communications. Diana Breyer with the Corridor Fund.
Josh Dangle, Legislative Intern.
All right.
Jared Beard with Region 4.
There we go. Anybody else from UDOT? Brigitte? Welcome. Brigitte Mandel from FHWA, our partners in crime here, so we certainly appreciate her being here. She'll give us a report in a few minutes. We appreciate all of that.
Yeah, she's the partner in War of Crime.
Yeah, that's right. She's trying to keep us straight. But we certainly enjoy a good relationship with the FHWA, and we look forward to your report here in a few minutes. What we want to do today, because we're in the midst of the legislative session, is to start today's meeting with a legislative update, and Elizabeth is going to lead us in that. You may be aware that there are a number of bills related to transportation that are working their way through the legislature. And so we want to get an update on how all of that is going. Elizabeth, welcome.
Thank you. This is my first time doing this, and this is an exciting year to be reporting on what's going on at the legislature. Okay, so we're going to start off, we're going to ease into this with one of the UDOT requested bills. So this one is HB 26, it's the Transportation Safety Program funding, and Representative Christopherson is running this for us. So we have Zero Fatalities has gotten requests over the years from private potential donors who want to donate to our education fund. We have more high schools asking for presentations than we even have bandwidth to give. And so this creates a fund where private donations can be put in, and then there are some restrictions on what it can be spent on, but it is for the intent of expanding our Zero Fatalities educational outreach. All right, now we'll dive into the high profile bills, the ones that have been in the news. So we'll start with SB 71. This one is the road tolls provision. And this is being sponsored by President Niederhauser and co-sponsored by Representative Schultz. So this one, the primary goal of this is to allow automatic technology that can detect how many people are in a vehicle so that we can tell if there are violators in the express lanes and potentially other tollways. So it's really just allowing the technology, since as you guys know, all of the tollway provisions were already in place. But one thing that came in a later substitute was that it also provides the commission with the ability to create a tollway on an existing facility without having to have a full vote by the legislature, which was the previous restriction. Do you have any questions on that one? That one very directly relates to all of you.
Just how's that being received? What are the obstacles that you're dealing with?
I may defer to Carlos on this one.
Yes, so it went through the Senate Standing Committee, passed unanimously. When it got to the Senate floor, the substitute happened. Senator Fillmore made that substitute to allow for tolling of existing capacity by the department and the commission. And that passed unanimously off the Senate floor. It's sitting now in House rules, has not yet been assigned to a House committee yet. So, oh, it did go to committee, sorry, Shane. It's gone through House committee, did not pass unanimous. We had one vote against. And so now the next step is the House floor. And yeah, that was an unexpected substitute for us.
Thank you.
Kind of happened organically. Fillmore asked about it, and then Adams gave support for that. So there were we hadn't planned for that, so that came up. And there's also been some discussion. We had discussions in this meeting in October, and I believe in November too, talking about the maximum toll rate. So there's some discussion about how this interrelates with the tollway bills. But at the moment, that it's not really affecting the bill. It's just part of the dialogue.
And so maybe Elizabeth, it might be helpful. So if you remember, the commission looked at you having two levels of toll rates, a $2 maximum operating rate, and then a theoretical maximum rate of $4, where the concept was the legislature would go up to $4, and then the commission has now said $2, and this would give you the ability over time to make adjustments as traffic changes. That was presented to our and passed by our IGG, Infrastructure Appropriations Subcommittee. It went to Executive Appropriations last night, where we received some significant discussion about that, and so they did not vote on that. So it'll be interesting to see. They were more comfortable with them approving just the $2 rate. So we'll see where that
rather than putting the $4 maximum and then give a little leeway in between.
Yeah. Okay. But again, no action on that. We'll see where that goes. I imagine they'll have some additional questions here over the next week and a half before they take a final vote on that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Question on the SB 26.
Yeah.
Is there any maximum on the donation limit? Then how much you can do, and is it tax deductible at the end?
Nothing in the legislation. We're going to put together some rules of the road on terms of this. We have some questions whether or not we want to make it open to folks that do business with the department. That may not be appropriate for consultants or contractors to
Be supporting.
to support that, because it could send us, a signal that, wink, wink, support this, and you might get more work. So that's kind of what we're thinking right now. If this does pass, which I believe it will, we're going to put some rules around, the appropriate types of donations and from the right sides.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions before we move on to the big party bill, SB 136? This is the task force bill, but really called the Transportation Governance Amendments Bill. This one is Senator Harper and Representative Schultz, the chairs of the Transportation Governance and Funding Task Force that worked through the summer. So this increases funding flexibility. It opens up the TIF for spending on transit projects, and that's in alignment with the governor's budget proposal. And then it also, I bring this up, this has not been something that's been a main focus of discussion, but it is pertinent to you and to us as UDOT. It includes some structural changes to UDOT. It says that there will be 2 deputy directors, one the deputy of planning and investment, and one would be the deputy of engineering and operations. And it also creates a new division, the division of economic development, and the focus of that would be to manage P3s. The more prominent discussion has been about the restructuring of UTA, taking the board down from a 16-member board to a 3-member commission that would work full time. One of the things that has gotten a lot of attention in media and in public conversations at the meetings has been the vehicle registration fees. So this was a carryover from a different bill that was being run. It was actually a tax bill, but this is increasing registration fees for electric and hybrid vehicles. And then it also includes an alternative where instead of paying the flat increased fee, they could opt into a RUC program, so a per mileage fee. And the reason that that is significant is because we would need to figure out how to get that in place. Along the lines of that, it also calls for us to do a pilot study or a demonstration study of per mileage fee. So looking at a RUC pilot program that could potentially in the future be administered more broadly.
And that was, excuse me, it's a 3-member UTA commission and a 9-member board.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, it's a 3-member commission and it's a 9-member advisory board.
Right.
So
that's what I.
Yeah, and it's kind of a repurposing of. They had an existing, I think it was the community advisory board, and so it's sort of repurposing that, but taking the concept of a broader board and then still having the 3-member commission, which is full time.
Yeah, and then Ken had brought up that it does encompass all the area that UTA
currently services. Yes.
Yep.
And this is like 120-page bill, so we are really just covering the highlights. There's a lot of material in there. Okay, so those are the main points that I think are most pertinent to this group. Another thing that's of interest is there were a lot of discussions over the summer about the relationship between transportation and land use and economic development. One of the things that has happened is that this requires land use and economic development considerations to be added to the prioritization process that this commission uses for prioritizing projects. So that's something that we'll work through if this bill passes. And it also requires our strategic initiatives. And so there's the idea is that we would take a statewide look at the strategic goals of the state, working with our partners, the partners that we already work with, and potentially working a little bit more closely with GOED and GOMB and the Kim Gardner Institute to take a look at what's happening in our state and what the goals are for what we want to happen in our state, not just what we want as UDOT, but all of us as a whole. I think that those are the main points. Like I said, this is a huge bill. Carlos, is there anything you'd like to add on that one? And do all of you have any questions on that one?
Question, please. So these 3 commissions is different from what we have a commission right now. It will be full-time paid commissions.
That's correct.
So Elizabeth, maybe tell the commissioners what the status is. Where does it sit right now?
The status of this bill. So there, as you may expect, with so many parts, there are conversations continually happening on this one, redrafting sections of this. Right now, it has made it through the committee meetings. Did it get through the Senate floor?
No, it's been through Senate standing, and it's waiting to go to the full floor of the Senate.
our understanding is that there are a couple of issues that other stakeholders are working through with the sponsors before they send it to the floor.
Was there any kind of a fiscal note attached to this?
Yes.
Yes.
What was it?
As you might expect with a full-time commission at UTA, it's fairly hefty. I'd have to look at the exact number for you, but I'd be happy to get that for you.
Yeah, we had one as well, obviously.
Is there any discussions about what the job description would be for those commissioners?
I think that there's discussion.
Yes, it's in the legislation.
It is in there.
So they talked with us, the task force chairs talked with us about what your roles are, how your roles are described, what they really need there. And I think that the idea is that they're hoping to get some expertise in not necessarily just transit expertise, although that is something to consider, but I think that they're more looking for really great management, good business practices, people who are organized and people who can borrow some of the characteristics that are typically used to describe UDOT and bring those to UTA too.
And this also will be under the UDOT jurisdiction, right?
No.
So they would still be a totally separate entity. The one tie-in is where the commission would be prioritizing TIF funds for multimodal purpose.
Yeah, if Elizabeth mentioned some additional functions of the department. So they did look at some options of combining UTA as a division of the department. Honestly, the debt that UTA is carrying was something that the state did not want to take on. And so this is kind of where this is the governance that they're moving forward with. I sense quite a bit of excitement about this, support from both the President of the Senate, as well as the Speaker of the House right now. There's a lot of details that are still out there. We did as a department as well submit a fiscal note because it's asking us to do additional things, and Shane will describe what we put forward.
Thanks, Carlos. So when we put this together, we looked at not just if this bill passed tomorrow, but what it would mean to us maybe 3 or 4 years from now. So it may be broad, it may be larger than it would be. It's a larger ask, I guess, than it would be day one. But it would include 16 new FTEs. 2 of those would be a deputy director and assistant. 3 more people in the P3 section, the planning and investment division. 6 people in planning, because the bill asks us to do much more planning from a statewide perspective. It asks us to go into local communities and really coordinate with them a little more robustly than we are today. We have 5 transit project development folks that we requesting, and I think those are kind of a ramp up at some point. I don't see us having the need for 5 tomorrow, but 5 over time. That brings it the total number to 16 and a $3.5 million fiscal note.
Yeah, so that would come out of the transportation fund if this passes in its present form. And those positions in project development, because the vision is that the department would do the environmental, the design, and the construction of capital transit projects. And so that's the vision of this project.
Questions between us, where are they going to get the money? Appropriate.
It would come out of the transportation fund. So
No,
it's
no,
basically,
yeah, we know that. I'm just saying that that's a big chunk of change.
yeah, it's, you know,
That's
the budget's about $600 million. So this would be transferred from the construction line item to the different line items that these different positions would be in.
Meg, we're going to collect it from toll roads.
I'm not going to go on a public record on that.
That would require another statutory change.
Keep going.
Okay. Any other questions on that one? Because then we're going to talk about something else really exciting, which is autonomous vehicles. So HB 371 is the Autonomous Vehicles Amendment Bill, which is being run by Representative Spenlove. And this is kind of a follow-up to the report that we worked on with him a couple of years ago. It adds definitions, and this was based on some model language that was provided by a coalition of private sector companies. So it has some support from them, but it adds definitions which pretty closely mirror the SAE definition. So there are 5 levels of automation, 0 being no automation, my car, and 5 being a fully autonomous vehicle. So it includes those and it recognizes the levels. It also allows fully autonomous vehicles to operate on Utah roads, but it does require that they be insured and registered. And it doesn't actually have a ton of direct impacts on UDOT. It does have some pretty significant impacts on the agencies that would be providing the insurance, registration, licensing. So we've been coordinating pretty closely with them. Carlos led a meeting with the heads of those other agencies to talk about what needs to happen to move forward. As you might imagine, they have some pretty legitimate concerns about how much work needs to go into setting up and considering what may happen in the future, but there's also a lot of excitement about being a leader in autonomous vehicles. So that's moving forward. We also got some pretty glowing praise and encouragement from the governor's office. We met with the lieutenant governor, and we were expecting him to say, yes, let's think about this and this and this, and he just said, go get them, Tigers. So we're getting them. Any questions on that?
Tigers. Great.
I just have a comment.
Yeah.
Unless you do this work, you have no idea how intense it is. So now that you're all my new friends, those of you who spend all day up at the Capitol, it's great work that you're doing. And on behalf of the state of Utah, I thank you for the attention that you're paying. I know it's long, hard hours, and you have to juggle a lot of balls.
Thank you. It is a lot. It's a lot of work, but like I said, this is a very exciting year to be doing a lot of work on really exciting things.
Thank you, Commissioner, for acknowledging that. It's led by Linda Hall, who lives up there, and
yes, we've had breakfast and dinners before.
Exactly. It's 7 day a week, very late at night, early mornings. You know, with Elizabeth and Josh has been really helpful for us here this session, helping to really kind of weed through all the bills and say, hey, maybe you should look at this one or look at this one. But then on top of that, you know, the work of Shane and all of our group leaders, and then our poor region directors, when they every now and then get the phone call, they need to come up and have a discussion. So it's a lot of people that are doing their full-time jobs as well as this job.
Well, and so many people too within our organization, we often will get those hallway questions where someone says, well, what about this? Or I'm thinking I want to run a bill on this, or I have a question about this intersection near me. And everyone in our organization is feeding information back so quickly. There have been many frantic texts and phone calls from people who are back at the office who are really responsive and get us tons of information. So it really is a massive team effort.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thanks to all of you, all the group leaders and region directors too. Okay, so there are just a few other bills that have been a little bit less high profile but are still noteworthy. One of them is SB 177. This is the bicycle and electronic assisted bicycle amendments. So there was a bill that Senator Weiler ran in 2016, and it just allowed e-bikes. So these are bikes that have a motor, and so you can pedal, but it'll give you some assistance if you need it. It will speed you up. And you can technically ride one of these without pedaling at all, up to 20 miles per hour. And because of that little detail, it put us out of compliance with federal DUI regulations. So there's a $7.8 million per year penalty for that. So we're eager to have Senator Weiler run another bill to apply open container law to e-bikes. So that's what this bill is.
Remember that we addressed things.
Right.
Yeah, we talked.
Yeah, so this bill is moving forward. Don't anticipate a problem on that one, but you know, it's an expensive problem if it were to persist as a problem, so that should be taken care of. There are a couple that deal with property rights. We'll just mention them really quickly. All of you who are aware of sessions probably know that property right issues tend to come up almost every year, and they're often sticky and hairy, and we're very lucky to have Lyle McMillan helping Linda. They're an excellent tag team. So quickly, HB 266 is limited access highway amendments. This is being run by Representative Webb, and this one, he's been really quite good to work with. Like I said, it started out sticky and is no longer sticky, but this one basically just takes a look at when we're taking access. Carlos, do you want to say anything about this one? This one is pretty well resolved. The other one is HB 62.
No, I would say it basically puts in statute the existing practice for the department. So.
And then the other one is HB.
Carlos,
go ahead, yeah.
Please tell us the distance between two axes, how much has to be before they can take it away?
If it's one of your developments, a couple of miles. It depends on the type of road. So we have different functional classifications of roadways that serve basically different purposes. And we look at the traffic patterns, and the regions work with those communities to come up with what that spacing should be. It depends on the actual traffic flows that are out there as well. So we'll look at everything from, not wanting to have accesses very close to intersections or interchanges to help them function better, to possibly putting in median islands that would restrict left turns in and out when you have a very busy area, and can create safety problems. So it's a safety and mobility piece that we look at. It's balancing that public's investment in the roadway against that property access issue.
Thank you.
Yeah, so his concern is primarily just when we take access or affect access, that we consider what that does to the value of the property, and that is also one of our primary concerns. So. And then HB 62 is the property right amendments, and this one is by Quinn. So this one was originally posed as a codification of the Supreme Court case Admiral Beveridge, and it turned into a bit of an expansion of that. So we've been working pretty closely with him on that one. It's moving through, and we continue to have conversations with him. So we expect to have a resolution on that as well. And then the last one that I wanted to mention was SB 139. This one is public-private partnerships. This one is also by Senator Harper and Representative Schultz. So this builds on previous legislation from 2016 by Senator Okerlund. And the main change to it is that it addresses what happens if somebody wants to put in an unsolicited proposal. So they would have to explain what the scope of it is, what the value is that it would provide. And then if we thought that it was worth some value, we would most likely open up a competitive selection process based on what they had submitted. But so it just provides a framework of what to do. If we get an unsolicited proposal, do we consider it, when to consider it, and then the paths for moving forward. That's it from my short list. Are there any other questions? Yeah.
Even though the bill went down, I think people might be interested in the cell phone bill, so that Representative Moss's bill, especially since we told people to get their head out of their ass.
We did, and join the resistance. So we're doing a campaign right now about distracted driving. Yeah. My understanding was that the main reason that this encountered some difficulty in committee.
Opposition?
Yes, opposition.
You say the word.
Opposition.
It got voted down.
It did. It did not make it through. I think my interpretation was that it was very specifically about handheld devices, and it was kind of a semantic discussion. I don't think that there's general desire for proliferation of use of handheld devices, but the way that the bill was written, I think, was the real issue. Is there anything else, Carlos or Shane, on that one?
We already have a pretty strict law on use of cell phones. You can't manipulate them, so you basically can't dial numbers. You can't punch things in. This would have taken the next step more towards a hands-free environment, which other states have. I think eventually, the primary seatbelt law took us 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this cell phone use in our lives has really relatively come on us pretty quickly. So I think we're going to see a lot of movement in this area in the future. And the commitment from the automobile companies and from the technology providers to try to create a very much safer environment for driving, it's amazing to hear. I had the opportunity last night to sit down with members of Federal Highways out of Washington and some OEMs, big car companies, talking about that future. And the safety is the number one thing they talk about. So I'm optimistic about the future in this area, but it's just happening so fast. We must not have been ready for it yet.
Yeah, I brought it up because I got quite a bit of input from the public on this one. Because it was interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. Everyone agrees you shouldn't be on your phone when you drive. But it's one of those things that
Yeah.
If the rest of you would just do it, then I could.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for saying
No, good job.
Thanks.
What about the digital driver's license? Any discussion on that one for the state of Utah yet?
Digital driver's license? I haven't heard anything on that.
Digital driver?
No, there was discussion
Yes.
during interim about creating a digital license, driver's license. I have not seen a bill this session, Judge, that gets to that, which is actually surprising. I hadn't even thought about that, but there was a request at a presentation to the interim committee to consider it.
Well, there's one state right now, there's a pilot in the program.
So you're basically, your driver's license would be on your cell phone.
Yes.
They tried to eliminate the registration papers for vehicles as well.
Anything else?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Hold on.
Appreciate
Thank
that.
you. Thank you.
All right, let's take a few minutes and open the commission meeting up for public comment. Is there anyone here who would like to address the commission at this time? If not, then we'll move forward. Brigitte, we'll have a report from the FHWA. Thank you for being here.
Just remember, Brigitte, Ivan is not here, so you can give the money whatever you want.
Good morning, Brigitte Mandel, Federal Highway Administration. I've got a few items to go over with you. The first is Section 148G2 of Title 23 established an older driver and pedestrian special rule. Utah was one of 10 states identified where the fatality and serious injury rate for a 2-year period actually increased. So the result of this is that in the next state strategic plan, your state highway strategic plan, your update just needs to address a focus area for addressing older driver and pedestrian fatalities and serious injuries.
What's the age for an older driver?
65.
Is that all?
Don't say anything, Carl.
I didn't realize 65 was old.
Older, not old.
Oh,
The new 45.
Really? The new, I'm going to remember that one.
Interesting.
Please keep
That's okay, Shane will say it.
So, Federal Highway's Local Technical Assistance Program is currently revisiting their strategic plan, in particular their mission, their vision, and focus areas. And they're looking for opportunities to partner with other agencies such as AASHTO, APWA, and NACE on delivering training and technical assistance to local communities. So in order to get feedback right now, there is an online survey available to local communities, and that survey is available through March 2nd. Funding. We have another continuing resolution. So we are funded through March 23rd. Utah should receive additional funding sometime in the near future that will take us through that period. GAO recently released their final report regarding accelerated project delivery. They had 3 findings. The first is that the most recent 3 transportation authorizations all included numerous provisions for accelerating highway and transit project delivery. The second is that state DOTs reported a number of provisions that they used that sped up highway project delivery, although for transit projects they could not assess what the effect was. Federal Highway has assigned 6 states NEPA authority. 2 states reported time savings, but Federal Highway has not provided guidance on measuring those effects. Utah is one of those 6 states that was interviewed. And then they had one recommendation, and that is that the Federal Highway Administrator should offer and provide guidance or technical assistance to NEPA assignment states on developing evaluation methodologies, including baseline timeframes and timeliness measures. So that's something that we can all look forward to. And lastly, the President has released his infrastructure plan and budget. The plan is a framework and principles to contribute to the debate. And there are 2 goals of the 10-year program. The first is to generate $1.5 trillion in infrastructure investment And the second is to reduce project delivery to less than 2 years. Any questions?
Any questions for Brigitte? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate that report. Let's move to our reports now from the scoreboard, Randy and Jason.
Well, thank you, Commission. We've got a, as I promised before, we've got a new report we put together, and we're going to spend a little bit of time. I didn't do this. Actually, I did.
You break the
We're breaking all the grand stuff.
Yeah, I don't. This is exactly what my wife said. Don't touch anything. And I don't listen very good, so I won't touch that again. I apologize. Anyway. I also touch this, and it doesn't seem to want to go up and down. There we go. So anyway, what we've added is some pre-construction information, or some of the things that are going on within our regions and central in the design phase. I think it'd be really telling of what's coming up and all the work that's going on. It's also something we want to measure to see how we're doing. And so you can see from this top line, you can see we have 4 past due projects, and I want to point that out as that's an incredibly low number. But I'm going to show you a little more detail in that when we get to our next, when I get down the chart just a little bit. We have a total of 19 projects will advertise within the next 60 days, which is good. We usually like those numbers to be fairly low this time of year. We hopefully have our bill of work already out, which we do for the most part. We have a total of 228 projects will advertise more than 60 days out, and 247 projects we still need to put dates in and actually get those scheduled, but have commission approval and have funding, and so that amounts to 498 projects that we're working on. Now that's an enormous amount of work for a little department like us, and you know, we're wonderful. I mean, I can tell you that, but we also have an enormous amount of help from the private sector friends that we have to accomplish that amount of work. This next line here, we've got 85% is our goal to advertise on time, and that's going to be something that I'll talk a little bit more as we get down to a chart. Currently, we're at 96% of all of our projects advertising on time, which is fantastic. This chart you're used to seeing. This is something that we haven't changed much, other than it's live, and so this is what's really happened over the last month. And somehow on the one that I pull up on the drive or on the web, and you can access all of this information under the strategic goals section on our website, under our tactical measures. But this just shows that I believe there was about $79 million worth of projects that were advertised.
Slide the mouse over a little bit and you drag that one down.
What's that?
Slide the mouse to the table, and then you'll be able to scroll down.
Still not getting it, Shane.
There. Oh, jeez.
Maybe over here?
Yeah, that bar right there.
That bar might do it.
There you go.
Okay, there we go. So anyway, you can see there's 18 projects, $79 million. So I'm glad those numbers, I had those numbers right in my head from looking at them yesterday. But that's what's gone on. So this chart you're really used to looking at, and we'll continue to show you this information. You can see there was a good distribution between all of the regions and the work that they've advertised within the last 30 days. This is a fun chart. This is probably the one we look at the most. It's our advertising status. And I mentioned that we had 4 projects that we'd advertised late. Well, if you go and look at the little black, they show up in black, and I know from the people in the audience you can't see these colors really good, but there's one here, 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 and then we had one happen in January. And so that's where the 4 are that show up on that first chart. And I want to jump back up to this chart really quick too and point out something. That you can see that this yellow section, we've always had this, but it shows that we advertised this project late. And you can also see that we advertised it about 6 days late. And so we want to know that we did hit our committed date, but we actually, in all intents and purposes, we're not late. And that's the majority of our projects, and that's really a credit to all our project managers in the region, to their dedication to get these projects done. So I wanted to point that out because we do show that This is an interesting chart in the fact the number of projects that are under construction. We've showed you this chart before, but if you hover over each one of these points, you can see last year in February we had 119 projects that were advertised. There's a deep contrast between that number and 164 projects that are advertised this year. I think what that tells of things to come, of how busy we're going to be this summer with all of the construction, and because that number is going to go up.
It's exciting.
We're also a little ahead of the game this year in getting our projects out, but there's going to be a lot of construction this year, and I think that tells that story. It's an interesting chart here. We changed this a little bit. This is the amount of money that we paid out per month to the contract and how much we still have left. You can see as we got to the fall, the blue is what we've actually paid out on contracts. And the orange, I guess that's orange, is the amount remaining. What you can see as we went through the fall, we'd actually paid out considerably more than we had left. That flip-flop here in January and February. And the reason that did is mainly because of some of the big projects that got advertised, and so now we've got a lot more to pay out, or considerably more to pay out than we do, than we've paid already. And so just kind of a sign of the times of what's going on in the construction industry. Contractor payments by month. This is a little bit interesting in the fact you can see last February we paid out. In January we paid out less than what we paid out this year. So obviously the good weather has helped us complete more work, as well as we have a few more projects going. This is a chart that we've really worked hard on this chart, and we still haven't figured out how to do this. And I'll tell you that this is just because it looks like to me, if we look at this chart, we have a lot of our projects are way behind schedule. But if you look at actually how our projects actually are delivered and the public's allowed to use them, they're not. But the only way we can measure this right now is by payment, and payment lags a minimum of 30 days at completion, just to get final completion and everything done. So we're looking at a new way. Matter of fact, Rob and I chatted about this yesterday, and we're looking at a way to try to get something different here so we can actually show what we're delivering to the public, and it's not based on payment. We also don't have an issue. We get everybody paid fairly quickly in the industry. Matter of fact, I think we lead the country in doing that and making the people wheel the money. Good shape. So anyway, you can see this is an interesting chart here. This is the engineer's estimate, contract award versus the engineer estimate. And in the past, we've talked about how close we've always been. And there's a real anomaly here, though, of what happened in November. You can see that our engineer's estimates were considerably higher than the original contract amount. And one of the reasons, probably the biggest factor in this chart being different, is the awarding bid that we actually received and awarded for the tech corridor was considerably less than our estimate. And this is obviously a cumulative bar chart of all projects, but that project just shows we got a really, that project is really the factor of why that's different, and that shows we've got a really good bid on that job. And anyway, you can see since then things have leveled out a little bit, and we don't have that issue anymore.
Randy, is the engineer estimate an outside person or an internal person?
No, well, we've got a little bit of both. Okay. We have they're internal, but we also have some external people helping us with those. We used to do them all on statewide average prices, and now we do more of a production base. So what it actually costs to move a yard of dirt from place to place, or place a yard of concrete or whatever. So that's how we do that.
Thank you.
Anyway, so that's pretty quick. I think it was a great improvement. One of the things that's interesting about this is, in fact, I think, Shane, you might have used it at the legislature, some of this, and I watched some of this data change even the last couple of days. And matter of fact, we made some changes yesterday to this to make sure that we had all the flaws, and we're still looking for more flaws. So, any questions? Yeah.
Can you divulge the location of those past two projects and the reason behind them?
Can, yeah. I didn't want to show that. I didn't want to show anybody throw anybody under the bus. But if you guys want to go back and look at that, you can go down to, we built this in so there's a past due unadvertised project. And if you click on that, it will take you and show you the 4 projects that are past due. Or you can look at the projects that are advertised late. You can also look at the 60-day advertising list. Now, we also have a way to do this where you can view source data. You'll notice this tab here, and you're welcome to do that.
This is all live data on the public website.
Yeah, that will take you into our Socrata data sheets, and you can really drill down at that point. But these 4 things are the main questions we want to make sure that we're aware of, and we use this chart. We use this chart in a lot of different places, so we haven't just built this for the commission. Although if you'd like to think that, that's perfect. We use this with all of our project managers and our region directors, and they use this data religiously to manage projects.
So any particular reason why like January 2018 was kind of past due? Any particular reason behind that?
1 whole week.
Yeah, it was the 1 week late.
Yeah.
Well, that project has not been advertised yet. So all those projects that are black have not been advertised. A lot of times those are local government projects where there's a funding issue or something that we still track those. One of the things that will happen is you can see all the projects that are in red have advertised late. So you can see all these projects that are here in red have advertised late. And when these black ones do advertise, they're going to turn red.
Randy, can you click on it? Click on the past due.
Past due unadvertised?
These past due ones?
Yeah.
See how fast the internet was upstairs. It wasn't great this morning. It took a minute to get here.
And these deadlines are self-imposed, right? Okay. So it's just meeting our.
Yeah, we actually come up to them. And anyway, so here are the 4 projects that are past due that we have, and we list what they are, where they're at. If you scroll over, you can see more data with them. I'm not sure why that all works, but we don't need to go there anyway, but you can see who the project manager is, what region they're in, project values, things like that. And so there's a lot of great data here. One of the things that I'd like to go back to, so you know, I guess Carlos, is that good enough? You can see.
No, I was just gonna, you mentioned that they're they're local government projects. These are the toughest projects we manage because they're not our projects, but at the end of the day, we're responsible to the federal government to help make sure that the local governments are administering those projects per the federal regulations. And so the locals, we want to help them realize it's their project and they have to bring money to these projects. And so these are the ones that we struggle with the most to keep on schedule. And I would Brigitte, probably nationwide, it's probably the same thing.
Yeah, dating back, 2006, local projects were deemed a high-risk area for the nation, for federal highway. And we put a lot of emphasis into these programs and training, and a lot of pressure on the states to ensure that they are meeting the federal regulations.
Yeah, you can see that if I've scrolled over on this just to get a little more data, you can see these projects are mostly small. They're not large projects, so they don't affect a lot of our budget, but they're also significant. Our project managers work really hard. I think as far as project management in the department, these are the most difficult projects we manage, just because we need to be very sensitive and understand the issues that all the local governments deal with, and there are many that we don't even that we don't have to deal with in what we do. There's some interesting other things about this chart. You can see see this purple color. They match the color of Shane's shirt, tie, and socks today. Those are projects that are in scoping, and those are projects that we still haven't moved fully into the design phase yet. But these are things that we want to do. We want to keep those as small as we can as we go. And then the future unadvertised projects. So what you can see here is we're in February. We've already advertised projects in March that were scheduled for March, April, June, July, and August. And so our project managers have advertised a lot of work. Just they're ahead of the game on those things. We try not to do a whole bunch of that so we can keep everything pretty even, accomplish everything we need to do that's on our backlog.
Mr. Chairman, I just.
Lou, yes, you had a question.
Randy, I really appreciate this, and you know, the commission really advocates for what's happening at UDOT, and I'm so proud of the fact that this is so transparent. I just, you know, people complain, go to the website. One very picky comment, this is from this end of the table. I hate it when I open this up and I see all these figures across and I realize it's pennies on this, you know, 13 cents in the end. It looks like a Zimbabwe or something, you know, all these. Why don't we just do dollars? The IRS does dollars, round it to the nearest dollar. You know, this local things are all in dollars. It just looks like there's so many numbers there. Oh, those are just 0.00. So this is your picky.
Yeah,
these are
Mr. Kramer, we
I
actually
understand.
had this conversation yesterday because what we do is we pretty much measure projects.
Yeah.
But when you look at the big dollars things we never miss on. And
right, it's just that
I know as a region director, anything when we've had these charts in a different format, not in Socrata, or the program we have now, so it wasn't quite as easy, but we hated to always see red. And Carlos heard that from me a lot when I was region director. I mean, red just seems just like a horrible color, although it's my favorite color.
Yeah.
Not in this context. And so, yeah, we will take a look at that, because we had that conversation too. See if we can't. One of the things that we thought would be a really great place to maybe put some dollars here is here on this chart, because our program's considerably bigger also. We have more projects, but we also have a program that's larger. So could we do a dollar chart here that shows that amount?
Yeah, and leave the pennies out. Just that's too many decimals.
We'll try to. Yeah, well, sometimes we're engineers.
I understand.
That one might be tough, but we're not accountants, so we might be okay.
Got dollar bill here to keep us under control.
All right, I'll do that.
Thank you, but excellent transparency. I just think it is so helpful to us as public agencies spending public money to be able to say, look at it, here it is. And you're doing a fabulous job on that, so congratulations.
Any other comments or questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason, you're up.
He looks excited. He kind of rolled his eyes.
He's the media star that we saw as we walked in on the screen outside.
That was his son.
Yes, I was stayed home sick today, but I knew my fans on the streaming internet would be disappointed if I wasn't going to talk.
Yeah, go easy on Jason. He's had a bit of NyQuil, so he's liable to say just about anything tonight.
Nothing's ever stopped.
I was going to say, does he take NyQuil every month?
So this is day, I don't know, what day are we into the legislature now? Anyone know?
Tuesday at midnight was the halfway point.
Halfway point. So 22 and a half days I've been wearing a tie to work.
There's only 13
The same
days
tie.
left.
It's been rough. So I did get the opportunity this morning to talk to you about our zero fatalities, zero crashes, zero injuries. As you can see here, when you go to our main page, we're sitting at 92.9%, which is really good. We're having a good year so far. You click down into this, it takes a little bit of all that, the wording and stuff, and this is a little bit cleaner to look at. So that is where we were at last year. As you go down, you can see that our target, as of today, we would be at 25. We're actually at 20 fatalities for the year. So we're below our 2.5% reduction target, which is great. That's a good thing. Sometimes I get a little nervous when the roads are this wide open and no snow's falling, because people tend to drive faster. Earlier, the Moss bill was brought up about the distracted driving and the joining the resistance. Earlier this week, there was a pretty serious crash on Bangor Highway involving a young man running into the back of a stopped school bus on Bangor.
Distracted driving?
Don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people that are assuming that. I noticed in looking at the comments on the board, on the KSL board, many people were saying, you know, they were assuming that and saying, put down your phone. They weren't blaming the young man. They were just saying, hey, this is the sort of thing that happens when you're behind the wheel of a, very heavy vehicle going at high speeds, and if you're distracted just for a short while. I was with one of my folks who works in the more carriers division, brand new truck, and I said, I don't see your truck in the parking lot this morning. He's like, I don't want to talk about it. Well, as we talked about it, he got a little distracted, ran to the back of the vehicle. Probably no one was hurt, but probably totaled his brand new truck that he just put new tires and lift, and just, it was kind of his dream truck. And all it takes is that quick second. He's like, I know better. I said, you didn't join the resistance, and it was a little too soon for him to be making light of it, but I didn't care. Could have been much worse. Could have been a lot more property damage. So, as you look at our employee fatalities, that is the only number I ever want to see. I mean, there is no reduction goal. I mean, it's zero. D0, stay zero. That's where we need to be. Our serious injuries, as you know, those tend to lag. So nothing real interesting to look at so far on that. But what is really interesting is the magic date for our employee injuries and our employee equipment damage is the 15th of the month. That's when the previous month's information gets loaded in. And Robert and Chris Mabey, our risk management leader, have looked at this, and they feel that this 0.96 is accurate for our injury rate for January, which is far below where we've been. So we're hoping that's accurate. It seems a little low, but even for the efforts we're putting forward, but that's exactly where we want to go. We want to drop off this chart. We want to make leaps and accomplishments that we haven't seen before. So that's very encouraging. Our equipment rate, you look at last January, we had a lot of snow going on, so we had a lot of more opportunity, I guess you could say, for equipment damage. January is typically a higher month, but you can see it's quite a bit lower than the previous January. And our goal is based off of a calendar year, and so you can see our goal is to be at 6.85, we're at 11.56, but we tend to have that kind of drop down throughout the months, and so we expect that to go down as we get into those summer months. But that's the fact that it's quite a bit lower than last January is an encouraging sign, and that's pretty much it for my presentation.
Questions or comments for Jason?
It's good.
You can go home now.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Could Shane take a minute and kind of explain what we have in front of us here? Nathan will go into a section of it later, but just so the commissioners can maybe understand and use the tool a little.
Please.
Take a few minutes.
Let's see if I can drive the other two. I'm going to start real quickly from our webpage. Where is the keyboard? Don't look at me like you do, idiot. So Utah. I got it. So right there on the front page, if you scroll down to strategic direction performance measures, that will bring up the main page that you saw both Randy and Jason launch from. This has our strategic direction. We'll show all of our performance measures. They're all right there, all live, updated for fatalities, updated daily. Optimize mobility, what was that, weekly or so, and preserve infrastructure is about an annual basis because we don't measure our pavements every single day. If you go down further, you can look at how the budget is put together through the budget prezi. And then Nate later on is going to go into this UDOT program briefing, which has just a ton of information in it and really will set you up well for the discussions we're going to have in March and April about the STIP development. And it's all right there. It's pretty amazing. And as you scroll down, you'll be able to see our tactical measures. So every one of these divisions, sections within our organization has put together performance measures that they're using to make decisions within their groups. Some of these are still under construction, some of these are more advanced than others, but every one of them is trying to figure out what are the things that we need to measure so that we can make better data-driven decisions. So it's all right there. This is one of the most exciting things we've done. For me, is we talk about being innovative, and oftentimes we're seen as innovative when we move a bridge or do an innovative intersection. To me, this is one of the most innovative things we've done. We can see at a glance where we're at. We'll be able to make decisions real time. We'll share information with the commission in real time. Or the public in real time, which is amazing. When Carlos and I had a chance to sit in front of the IGG a couple weeks ago and go through where we're at as a department, we used this entirely from here. It was no PowerPoint, it was all live. There's always a risk going live. I'm reviewing the data the night before, and I show up the next day and it's changed, and I'm like, okay, now why did it change? And but there was a fatality that night, and it updated the next day. So it's really cool. We're very happy about it, and so much effort goes. The folks that worked on this have just put a ton of effort into it. They've met twice a month over the last 18 months to get to this point, and I couldn't be more proud of those folks. So if you have a chance, get in. If you like data, this is the place to be. It's awesome. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Shane. Any questions for Shane on this great new project that's been completed, being updated as we meet? Thank you very much. With Jason having just completed, I want to bring to everybody's attention the leadership that UDOT exhibited here in the state on Monday. Jason and many of his group, there were I think 5 or 6 from UDOT who were present at the Governor's Office of Economic Development, and invited were representatives of the 4 universities, Utah State, Utah, BYU, and Utah Valley University. And there was a real interesting discussion on the needs of automated vehicles. We talked about automated vehicle bill, automated electronic vehicles, not only the vehicles themselves and the technology that's required, but the roadways, the infrastructure, and what would be required. There was a really interesting discussion and sharing of information about what the universities are doing in terms of technology development and the needs of UDOT, both in terms of roadways and the air. It was interesting. Jared was there, gave a presentation about heliports and other kinds of facilities that are coming because of electronic and automated vehicle transportation, not just surface transportation, but in the air. And so it was really amazing. And Jason led out, UDOT led that discussion, and I just want to bring that to everybody's attention, how the state, how UDOT is leading the discussion for the technology of the future that will drive a lot of the transportation technologies that we will see emerging in the next few years. So congratulations, Jason, and I wanted everybody to, especially the commission, to be aware of the discussions that are ongoing. And there will be additional meetings as a result of that. But it was a great group. I happened to get invited to it, so it was a real pleasure to be there. Thanks, Jason, for leading out in that.
Thank you.
All right, let's turn to the business items. We have the consent agenda, the approval of the minutes, and we have some funding adjustments returned. There were a total of 5 projects that returned money totaling about just over $8 million. I think it was $8,025,000 or something like that. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So made, Mr. Chairman.
Nagy moved.
Second.
You second, Danny. Danny second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We'll now have Bill Lawrence walk us through a number of STIP amendment adjustments that we need to go through.
Okay, we'll go ahead and start, starting with item 7A-1. This is a request from Region 1 to add additional funding, $2.25 million, and modify the scope for the SR 108, 2300 North to SR 126 project. It's currently funded at $650,000. The existing pavement condition on this section of road deteriorated a lot faster than expected. It was scheduled to be a preservation project, and now the type of treatment is a rehabilitation project, so it takes it a little bit deeper into the pavement. The region has this funding available. First is 1.7 million would be to cancel the SR 83, SR 102 to 120 North project. This route has been added to the region's annual chip seal coat program, so it'll be treated with the preservation treatment there, so they can move the money off of that one. And then $550,000 from Region 1's pavement rehabilitation program is also available. So we'd like to seek approval to add $2.25 million to the SR 108, 2300 North to SR 126 project and modify the scope as detailed.
I so move.
Been moved
Second.
and seconded. Any further discussion or questions?
Can we use purple book and orange book combined, mix match? Is that allowable to do that with the categories?
They're two separate levels of treatments, and so kind of really two different types of projects. And it really determines the level of depth that we go into it. So for the preservation, and I don't recall the exact thickness on preservation, which was going to help me on that.
2
inch and a half depth, whereas the rehabilitation goes further than that, so it costs more.
Thank you.
Further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, that's passed.
Okay, next item is 7A-2. It's another Region 1 request. This is a request to add the 1500 East Uinta Crossing improvement to the STIP. The funding is available in the state railroad crossing program. Get to that. Scroll down. I gotta make sure I'm keeping up both there. There's a project location map that you have available on this.
Right.
Which is right here. This project would improve the railroad crossing along 6600 South in Uinta, which is in Weber County. They'll install lights and gates at this crossing. Also, the profile would be adjusted and improve the vertical hump at the crossing. We've got the list of the railroad crossing plan. This is the second item there, the pin 16175. So we'd like to seek approval to add the 1500 East Uinta Crossing Improvement projects to the STIP as detailed.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that this project be added to the STIP. Any further questions?
You know, I was just going to say, pardon me for interrupting, Mr. Chairman, I just think the public has no idea how expensive these things are to do the right way. It's just astounding to me every time what we taxpayers are getting benefit of. That's why I'm voting for it.
Good, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
50 years ago, we
could you
did
please
one
go back to the
3 or
map?
4 times before we did them right.
Yeah.
We didn't say that.
Right there.
Is it possible in the future, or why they didn't connect those two segments of the road in the same location rather than being that far apart?
Which one are you talking about?
The 1500 East to the 1540 East.
On some mouth of Weber County.
Why did
why didn't they align? I'm not sure why they didn't align.
It probably has to do with the houses that are right there just opposite 1500 East.
There's a
Chris, are you trying to get up? Oh, I'm just waiting to see if you want me. So,
was that made the same time, the roadways, or just the one is the?
no, so this is in the Uinta City, so this is not a UDOT route or anything that we have jurisdiction over with. But as that area developed over time, and this has been ever since the railroads went in, that's just the way that that roadway network would work. And so the city could realign that and do that as they work with development, as some kind of development action will occur, or they would need to decide that they wanted to make a project and impact those homes and buy some homes and do that. So they could do that. Ultimately, Uinta City is a very small city, very, very limited funds.
Don't look for it anytime soon.
Yeah, but they could do that, but it'd be a really big lift for Uinta City to fix that.
Thank you.
Move on to the next one. We've approved
Okay,
that.
I was gonna say, I'm not sure where we were at.
Yeah, we approved that one.
Number 3.
All right, 7A-3. This is another crossing improvement. Region 1's requesting to add and I'd make one correction here, it's 2550 South crossing instead of 2500 South. Improvement and add this to the STIP. It's requested to fund this with $540,000 of funding from the Railroad Crossing Program. The project will install lights and gates at the crossing of 1400 West and 2550 South. We have an image where this one's located. Before I go to that image, I'm just going to point out this one also is on their list. It's the #1 project they have listed there in Region 1. And the location is right here. Okay, so they would install crossing panel. The crossing panels would be replaced. Nearby accesses would be converted to right in, right out, and active warning devices at 1300 West and 2550 South would be converted to lights and gates. Okay, so we'd like to seek approval to add the 2550 with a correction there. South Ogden Crossing Improvements projects to the 2018 STIP as detailed.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded that this new project be added. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, also approved.
Okay, next item is 7A-4. This is a Region 1 request to add $900,000 to the US 89 I-15, the Eagle Ridge Drive, North Salt Lake project. Its current project value is $1.5 million. Sections of existing concrete barrier need to be upgraded with this project for safety reasons. The funding addition will also address a section of roadway that was originally planned to be paved with state forces. The region has the funding available, $386,000 of highway safety improvement funds in the Highway Safety Improvement Program, as well as some NHPP funds from their Transportation Solutions balances. We have a location of this project map there. So we'd like to seek approval to add $900,000 to the US 89 I-15 to Eagle Ridge Drive in North Salt Lake as detailed.
It's about time.
So is that a motion?
Is that your?
Is that a
That's
motion?
his motion.
Okay, it's been moved.
I'll second.
It's been
And we have a
back
second.
for 40 years.
That's right.
It's been moved and seconded that this funding addition be made. Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
The next item is 7A-5. This is another Region 1 request, and it's to seek approval to add $580,000 of HSIP funds to the SR 39 dual lefts at Washington Boulevard project. It's currently programmed at $2.5 million. During the design phase, utility impacts were found to be more extreme than had been planned, and the cost of right-of-way is also higher than was initially planned. The funding from this increase is available in the Highway Safety Improvement Program. A location of this project there. So I'd like to seek approval to add 580 HSIP funds to the SR 39 dual lefts at Washington Boulevard project as detailed.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that this funding addition also be made. Any further questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Is there a question?
I had one. In this case, do we work with utility companies to participate in the expense of the moving the infrastructure, or?
I didn't question.
Yeah, in cases like this, do we work with the utility companies to participate in the expense of the
Chris?
moving?
I just was told behind me, help a friend, 50%.
50, good.
That's in state law.
We'll take it, thank you.
Okay. Next item is 7A-6. This is a Region 2 request, approval to add $14.5 million to the ID Blackhawk westbound and eastbound bridges and the SR 36 over I-80 project. The current project value for these is $12.2 million, so this is a substantial increase. The scope of these bridges increased based on the need for future design requirements without requiring modification to these newly replaced structures. So this takes into account the future need that's needed out there that will save in the long run of having to do additional work on these structures. The two I-80 bridges over the Union Pacific Railroad need to accommodate 3 lanes in each direction and all UPRR clearance requirements. Some additional roadway is required also to accommodate that. The SR 36, I should scroll to the map. There's the I-80 structures over the UPR, is in this location right. Wrong one.
Oh, that's it.
Oh yeah, that's it right there. And then the SR 36 structure is in this location right here. I should know, that's my route home.
I was going to say, you ought to be able to identify that one pretty easily.
So the SR 36 over ID Bridge will be longer, requires an additional span to accommodate the future connection of SR 201 to SR 36, and a lane will be constructed from Hardy Road through Sunset Road. The funding for this, $6.132 million from the SR 171 35th South to 5600 West intersection project. This project has been incorporated into the Mountain View corridor, so that funding can be shifted. And then there's $3.368 million of STP Flex in their pavement program, and there's also $5 million of available bridge program funding. So we'd like to seek approval to add the $14.5 million to the I-80 Blackrock eastbound westbound bridges and SR 36 over I-80 project as detailed.
I so move.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded that this kind of two combined projects
yes, we did that.
Be increased by 14 million plus. Any further questions or comments?
I just want to have an explanation on the ABC method, design method, Carmen or somebody.
Come on up, Ron.
Oh, Lisa, sorry.
Oh.
Go. I know you're here.
No,
To minimize the impacts to traffic on I-80, we are going to do a bridge slide on the westbound I-80 structure. So you'll be seeing that built to the side while we maintain traffic on I-80. We'll move traffic to the eastbound, and then probably within about 3 weeks, we'll be sliding that bridge into place. The structure itself is probably over 200 feet long, and it's a single span, so it's quite the effort to do this, and that's another reason for the funding increase on this, is really we're raising I-80 and to get all the clearances with UP, so that's why you see that dollar amount.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The bridge slide is a great idea.
Is there any further questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Also approved. Thank you.
Okay, next item is 7A-7. Region 2 is requesting $1 million of STP funds be added to the I-80 State Street to 13 East Bridge Joint Project. The current project value is just over $1.7 million, and the funding is available in Region 2's pavement preservation funds. In an effort to mitigate the delays, Region 2 is requesting and would utilize a rapid setting hydraulic cement. This would allow the repairs to be done and open it up into traffic within 4 hours of replacement. Currently, the repair is just using traditional concrete, which would take a lot more time. So that's the reason for the additional cost on this project. We'd like to seek approval to add 1 million of STP Flex funds to the I-80 State Street to 1300 East Bridge Joint projects as detailed.
I so move, and does this hold up as long as regular concrete? Got it, that's fine, just wanted to, because that area is just like slam.
Yes, it should be as durable as normal concrete. This is just rapid setting, so we can get traffic back on it quicker. If we were to use normal concrete, it would take a lot more time, so we get back traffic a lot more.
Isn't this the same stuff we put where the truck burned?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Mr. Chairman, I just had a comment, if I might.
I drive this. I have a, hold on just a second. I have a motion.
Or do we?
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Yeah, I made the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, now it's been seconded. Now a comment or question?
I'm sorry. Maybe I didn't hear because I drive this route a couple times a day,
Yeah.
and that can be really, really noisy. This is where David Burton said that he lost several fillings in his teeth going through this area. So, but it's very good to have that traffic problem mitigated. That is a very busy section. And this will allow me also to say how much I appreciate the new signs there. Look good, but if you go a little farther down, the signs are falling apart a little bit farther down, so I'm going to be back on my war horse on that soon. So anyway, you've got your comments and I've got my comments today. We got this covered.
All right. Moved and seconded. Any further comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
We're gonna have a separate category for loose sign.
Okay, next item is 7A-8. Region 2 is requesting approval to add the Region 2 various routes high friction pavement project to the STIP. I left my sample. You have the sample.
It's over here.
There's a couple right here. Yeah.
Nope. Oh, yeah, I wondered what that was. Thought it was some kind of brownie.
Not often.
We have two samples
It's
coming
hard
by.
to read.
This is an example of the high friction surface course that would go into this project. They've worked together with traffic and safety to identify locations for installation of these, which provide better traction for vehicles, thereby helping them stay in their lane of travel.
Is it this thick? Is this the real thickness?
It's just the black part on top, not the concrete underneath.
Oh, okay.
Just that very, maybe eighth of an inch thick.
Yeah, I'm pretty literal, I wanted. Thank you.
So the curves where this treatment is being applied are in places where crash history has shown that there is an existing problem with lane departure crashes.
You crash and it's your dead.
Boy, if you're on a motorcycle, you wouldn't want to fall on that
If you
baby.
want to wow people at a cocktail party, you can show them that high friction.
Probably set your glass on it even.
Be careful riding a bike on this stuff.
Or a motorcycle.
It's used in only a very limited area. You're right. I mean, if you put this everywhere, one, it's not cost effective to put everywhere. But two, it is a very high friction course, and we wouldn't want bikes riding all over that, or someone crashing on a bike on top of that would hurt.
Or my dog's paw.
Where is it going?
So where is this supposed to be used again?
So we've got a
up the
location
canyon. Okay.
map that shows some of these curves that have had those type of accidents.
Wow.
Here and here.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're in a few locations.
So I'd like to seek approval to have the Region 2 various routes high friction pavement project to the STIP as detailed.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded that this high friction pavement be funded as a new project. Is there any further discussion or questions?
Is it better than Syncrete?
Yes.
Is this the first time we've used it?
It's not. We've used it several times. For instance, we used it in Logan Canyon and over in Payson. Before we had 20 crashes. After we've had 6. So it really does reduce the number of crashes. You put it on a tight curve and you can hold your car will hold right to it.
Wow.
Great.
How long does it last? Pretty durable.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll find out.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's also been approved.
The next item is 7A-9. It's a Region 3 request to approve the use of just over 1.7 million of earmark funds, which are being returned from the SR 92 project to fund a new SR 92 miscellaneous repairs project. These funds are specifically directed to this location by the earmark itself. These funds would be used to cover the repairs left from the contractor from the settlement for the SR 92 project. At the location map here in Utah County. So we'd like to see approval of the use of just over 1.7 million of earmark funds to fund the SR 92 miscellaneous repairs project to the STIP as detailed.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that the SR 92 repairs funding addition be approved. Further questions?
How many additions have we had on SR 92?
How many additional funding requests?
Yeah, it seems like we keep putting money into SR 92.
So we've had a few. The main project has been closed. We finalized the settlement agreement with the contractor. Part of that was they left money for us to use for any repairs. This is that. This is all that.
Okay, I forgot that.
No problem.
Thank you.
We'll be continuing to make effective repairs out there.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah, for a long time.
There's a great water culvert or Provo River.
Water users.
It goes down underneath part of that road, doesn't it?
Yep.
Big one.
Yeah, it's like a 6-footer.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's a big thing.
Any further questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Next item is 7A-10. This is a Region 4 request to add 700,000 of highway safety improvement funds to the I-70 more interchange to Sinbad project. It's currently funded at 2.75 million. Adding these funds will bring the pavement preservation project above the 3 million threshold, which require commission approval. These funds will be used to improve safety by upgrading guardrail, widening and improving paint striping, and reflectivity. So we'd like to seek approval to add the 700,000 of HSIP funds to the I-70 more interchange to Sinbad project as detailed.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded that the I-70 project have the funding addition. Further questions or comments?
If you haven't had a chance to drive on this road, it's beautiful now. It's really looking good. Much improved, much safe.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much.
Okay, next item is 7A-11. This is the Cache Metropolitan Planning Organization TIP Amendment number 1. There are 3 projects that are being added to their TIP that need to be added to our STIP, and then there's three projects that have increased funding added to their TIP that need to be added to our STIP. I'll just briefly go through each one of those. The first one is increasing the funding for the roundabout at 400 East, 2200 North Logan, from 118 to 770, just over 772,000. The sponsor on this was North Logan. Increase the CMAQ cash funding on the Share the Air Education Campaign and IM training project from just under 110,000 to just over 281,000. The sponsor is Bear River Health. Add the Logan Middle Canal Crossing Improvements Project to the STIP. This is being funded with their CMAQ funds, as well as their STP Small Urban funding and the local match. And the sponsor on this one is Logan City. And then add the 2600 South Active Transportation Corridor Project to the STIP. This is being funded with their CMAQ funds, including the match, and the sponsor was Nibley City. And then the Cache Bikeway Planning Study to the STIP. This is funding with their Transportation Alternative Program, small urban funds, as well as the local match. Total project value on that one is just over 60,000. Sponsor on that one was Cache County. And then lastly, increase the TAP funding for the required additional match for the Millville Safe Routes to School project, which takes it from just over 552,000 to just over 722,000. And that's Millville City. We have a table in there that shows these listed in their tip, and the green boxes on the side is the new total amount for each of those projects. There's maps and other information on each one of these projects too, where they're located and what they're doing. So we'd like to seek approval to add the Cache MPO projects to the STIP as detailed.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
This is not our money. This is not UDOT money. This is their money. So we're just getting it into our planning.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
When they put in their tips, it's required to be in our STIP as well.
Okay, I'm still learning all the tip, stip, and stuff. So I'll move to approve.
So are we.
I have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, that's been added.
Okay, next item is 7A-12. This is similar in nature in that this is but down south in the Dixie MPO planning organization. On this one here, the Dixie MPO met on this. We were notified yesterday that they didn't quite follow completely their public notice requirements. And so they will be meeting again to discuss this and go through the formal process. So this will be pending upon their official approval again. Even though it says in here that they met, they did, but they were called that they didn't follow that guideline. So in that though, they have to reprogram just over $2.4 million from the Merrill Road from 20th East to Washington Fields Road project to a new project named Washington Parkway, which is Green Springs Drive to I-15 exit 13. Add the old 91 from 200 East to Shivwitz to the STIP. The funding on that is 150 of SDP Small Urban for Dixie MPO in 2020 and $2 million in 2021. And the matching funds for this would come from Ivan City. And then also add the Purgatory Corridor Preservation Project to the STIP, funded with 300,000 of their COG funds in 2018. We have a projects table as well listing these projects and the changes that they would like. And so we'd like to seek approval to add the Dixie MPO planning projects to the STIP as detailed, pending their board approval.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded that the Dixie MPO amendments be approved. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. That explains, I guess, if they've got a road to purgatory, that explains why St. George enjoys warm weather. Is that the deal?
Maybe.
Could be.
And that's why people said that if they owned hell in St. George, they'd live in hell and rent out St. George.
That's right.
Off the record.
Off the record. The record and into your microphone.
It may not be hell.
All right, the next item is 7A-13.
Can I make a correction on that one, Mr. Chairman?
You certainly may.
The actual term is that if I have one home in the hell, one home in St. George, I would rent one in the St. George and go to hell.
You get pretty good rentals these days, though.
Because you can't have the one in hell.
Parade of homes this weekend.
Okay, one more item.
Yeah, let's move ahead.
We digress.
Let's go.
7A-13, this is STIP amendment number 5 for the Airport Capital Improvement Program. This is a new project. State Aeronautics is requesting approval to add $1 million for the apron rehab construction project for the Moab Airport. The Moab Airport runway upgrade project is scheduled to move forward over the next several months. With additional commercial service, the apron capacity for the larger planes is expected to be inadequate. This project expands the apron and related connections. There is funding available in their program to handle this request. We've got a diagram that shows the airport. The sections in the red clouds is the work that would be completed with this project. And see what the cost, there's a little bit of contingency that they've added to this as well. So we'd like to seek approval to add the Moab Airport Apron Rehab Construction Project to the 2018-2023 Airport Capital Improvement Program as detailed.
While that map is up, I think we've got the manager, Judd. Would you come up and explain the work the additional work that's being done on the airport and why this becomes such an important addition to that?
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Judd Hill, Airport Director for Canyon Landscape. What we're looking at here is an increase of what's called aircraft hard stands. The majority of the ramp is asphalt, and it's designed to hold the weight of the smaller type aircraft. We're actually shut down right now. We're under complete construction of the runway and of our terminal. We're expanding it from 75 feet wide and 25,000 pound strength up to 100 feet and 85,000 pound strength. That'll enable us on May 1st to begin service with United Airlines, bringing in commercial jets. We're also done more than
737s?
These are CRJ 200s.
Okay.
To begin with the upgrade in this phase of the project, we would actually be able to take the capacity of the 200s and 700s, or the 50 passenger and 70 passenger aircraft. Future phases of development will be able to take us up to 90 passenger aircraft. And in conjunction with that, we're also more than doubling our terminal building. With our existing ramp, we have tie-down spaces for a lot of smaller aircraft, the general aviation type aircraft, and we have some hard stands that can take the weight of larger private aircraft, private jets. And we do not have a spot that can accommodate the commercial jets that will be coming in. And then also, unfortunately, we are building it and they will come. And we've already had a significant increase in the number of private jets utilizing our airport. They started coming to Utah instead of going to Colorado and driving over. So they will continue to come in greater numbers. And these hard stands would be designed to take the weight of those aircraft when they show up.
Judd, where's the terminal?
The terminal in this diagram is actually, right now this is our existing terminal here, and it is doubling in size to the north. We've actually already, to start the project at the end of last year, we removed this storage garage and rebuilt it over here. And when I left yesterday evening, almost all of the walls were up. The foundation was completed a couple weeks ago. That is on schedule to finish about mid-April. The original runway completion was April 30th, and we're about 7 to 10 days ahead.
And the service is going to be from Moab to Denver?
It will be to start with. SkyWest Airlines, we are a community service by Essential Air Service. Several communities in Utah utilize that. And when SkyWest they submitted a bid. They were the only ones to submit a bid that had commuter jet service. And what they were able to work at that time was United Express to Denver.
Okay.
We've already been in discussions about how we can expand to future markets.
Like Salt Lake City.
Like Salt Lake City.
Very good. Thank you.
Very good. Any further questions for Judd?
Just a naive question. How many passengers do you expect to have here? And I don't know, how does that rank in other airports in the state?
Right now, what we look at is enplanement passengers, a paying passenger getting on. This last year, the magic number we're going for is 10,000. 10,000 is the magic number of enplanements because that changes our federal entitlement funds from $150,000 a year to $1 million per year from federal funds coming in. We had 9,800 enplanements unofficially for last year. Half of those were from locally based companies doing charter flights, scenic flights, and other private jets coming in, and about half of those were from a smaller commercial service that was helping fill the gap. I can expect us to double at least in the first year. Of the first full year, I think we'll have.
So you're anticipating a move from, say, 10,000 to nearly 20,000 with this new commercial opportunity?
I believe so. One of the advantages we have is we've got nice neighbors in Colorado, just over the border, and unfortunately, getting to some other destinations, a lot of people from Utah are taking their business to Colorado and flying out of there. Once we have this infrastructure in place, and especially with our essential air service, we will get those customers from Colorado coming to Utah. So I think that will actually also help in our numbers.
You have some great ads on television these days too. Yeah.
Discover Moab and the Moab Travel Council has been doing a lot.
Congratulations.
Further comments or questions for Jed? Thank you for coming up here and explaining that. So that now the amount of money that's being spent on these grants, you were telling me earlier, is about $14–15 million.
Correct. Between our runway total project is grants are 12.4 and 12.4 million from federal, 642,000 from UDOT Aeronautics, and then our terminal is a combination of Utah CIB grants and loans and local matches of about 1.8 million.
So you're really talking some significant dollars here, and this $1 million that's being requested will augment that and support that.
It will be, as I said, we're building it, they will come, and what this will really help is maintain and preserve the infrastructure that we have and make it usable by the type of aircraft that we expect to come in.
All right, thank you.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that this $1 million apron improvement be approved for Moab Airport. Any further discussion or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you, that's been approved.
Thank you very much.
Jed?
Fly to Moab.
Nice report. Yeah.
Thanks, Jed, appreciate it. We have some corridor preservation items.
We do.
Lyle, welcome. We missed you last month, but it looks like you're making up.
Yeah.
You're making up for lost time here.
You were the third person watching it last.
All right. All right, let's go ahead to the fund balance tab and go through the current condition of the Marta Dillery Corridor Preservation revolving loan fund balance. The most recent balance that we have is $10,045,000. We have the MAG contribution from the Autumn Valley property that we recently closed on. That is actually $1.2 million that's found in that miscellaneous revenue under the revenue line. So you can just mentally move $1.2 million out of that into the MAG contribution. The numbers still net correctly. We have a transfer of repayment from Mountain View Corridor in the amount of $4.3 million. And we closed on a property on Highway 89, the Sugahara acquisition. And then we have miscellaneous expenses. When those are netted out, that gives us a fund balance, tentative fund balance of $16 million. You've previously obligated $9.7 million worth of properties, which leaves us an unobligated fund balance of $6.3 million. Typically, we give you an opportunity to ask if you have any questions on the status of any of the ones that you've previously obligated.
Any questions? Go ahead, Lyle.
Thank you. So today we have 4 applications for your review, totaling about $4.7 million.
Scroll down.
You did.
Oh, scroll down.
There you go. It's this new fangled technology thing.
Do you guys see what I see?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm in control of your vision. I get it.
And don't let it go to your head.
Too late, Commissioner. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Quality control here by Danny.
So you can see we have 3 Highway 89 applications. Those will be the final ones now that we are on the eve of potentially having a full project, and then one on the Mountain View corridor that's in a future phase way south in Saratoga Springs. Any questions on the fund? Okay, let's go to the first agenda item, 8A. This is the Michael and Hillary Flanick property. It's at 2825 Oak Hills Drive in Layton. It's a single family residence. They've been in the property for 3 years. We had it appraised. It's $340,000. It's in the future widening of US 89, as I mentioned earlier. And if you look at the map with me, this is the property, and the access is right on the corner of what will be a future signalized intersection, and that's not a safe condition. What we're proposing to do, if you obligate funds for us, is purchase the house, do some modifications to the access, the garage, the access is like right there, and the garage, what we're going to do is wall off the front, put a driveway through it to the back of the property, and then have them access back here. And then once after the project is over, we'll put the home back on the market, and we hope to recover and/or economy approving, actually put some money back in the project. I come to you with a favorable recommendation from the advisory council to obligate funding in the amount of $340,000 for us to make an offer on this property.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded that this property acquisition be approved. Comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to the next one, 8B. And this is the Sager residence. It is also in the US 89 corridor at 688 Woodridge Drive in Layton. They've been in the home for almost 2 decades, and they've recently developed some financial hardship and asked us to accelerate the purchase of their property that they need. We got the property appraised. It came in at $315,000. Take a look at the map. So you can see every house on this side of Woodridge Drive is slated for a total acquisition, and we reviewed it in the advisory council, and I come to with a favorable recommendation to obligate funding in the amount of $315,000 so that we can make this purchase.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded that this purchase be approved. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's go to 8C. Annabelle Wall Trust. This is the final application on US 89. This is at 1480 Highway 89 in Layton. It's vacant land. It's been in the property for 4 decades. We had it appraised at $143,000, and it says vacant land. I don't think it's vacant though. Okay, so it's tenant occupied. This is, for those of you who know the area, this is that little coffee shop off of Highway 89. We're going to do some, basically what we propose to do, it's $143,000 for the entire property. We'll just assume the lease, and they can continue to operate until we actually need the property for the project. Just another. So I come to you with a favorable recommendation to obligate funding in the amount of $143,000 to make an offer on this property.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded that this also be approved. Any further discussion or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. That's also been approved.
Thank you. All right, now let's move south to the Mountain View corridor.
Mr. Chair, allow this real quick.
Yes.
Just as a kind of a heads up, these are probably the last 3 parcels that you'll see using corridor preservation for this project. We're going to move now into the funded project and go through the normal right-of-way acquisition process. So hopefully this wraps that up for 89, which is kind of a milestone for us.
Yeah.
Well, and what's important is 89 was the genesis behind the creation of the Corridor Preservation Fund.
Exactly.
Back in 1995, 96, Representative Guard really carried the bill. We had done an environmental document, but there was no funding for that project. And we had created hardships there with people unable to sell their homes because we had crayon drawings marks through their homes. And so it is kind of interesting how long it took for us to get to this project.
To get to that.
Wow.
Now, is there...
How many homes do you think we own in this?
We have purchased over, I think, 6 dozen homes over the last 22 years and have been either leasing them out to tenants or in other instances, we've let other emergency services practice in them before we take them down. They've provided a lot of
in other words, the fire and rescue people have had some good fun.
That's correct.
Mr. Chairman, may I just say, I have the pleasure of serving on this committee, and to see what we're doing, we really are leading the nation in some of these practices, and I appreciate what Lyle and Diana are doing to make it. It's very, very forward-looking.
We are one of the very few states in the country that has a formally, actively funded corridor preservation program. And every month I come to you, and we're preserving bare ground, we're preventing imminent development, or we are alleviating hardships caused by our planning process. Yeah. This is a very progressive, forward-thinking, long-term benefit to the transportation and economy of our state.
With those, with that project coming online and those rental properties being eliminated, how much will our income that you showed earlier on the fund balance, how much will that, do you expect that to drop?
We anticipate, I don't have the exact numbers, but it will be fairly significant. We will
at least
also
half?
see, yeah, I would say maybe 50%.
So the monthly income that we've seen being reported will probably be half of that once this project really gets underway and those people have to move.
That's correct. And
however, offsetting that will be the fact that the project will refund to the preservation fund about how much money, do we know?
$28 million.
28 million?
I think we have 20 million left. We were at 25 million, they paid back 5, I think we're down.
We did
about 20 million. So that'll slightly offset the few $100,000 a month in revenue.
Time value of money.
Right, okay, thank you. So that the commission will understand the impact of this project, because we own those 70 or 80 homes along there that a lot of them have been just leased out. That's been a good source of that monthly income that we see. But when the project then reimburses the Corridor Preservation Fund, some 20 million or something like that, we'll have that available to spend as well.
The lion's share of the new revenue is the 2% motor vehicle rental tax.
Right.
And it has increased from when we started 20 years ago to about 100 to 200,000 a month to now 600 to 800,000 a month. So it's
significant.
Yes.
Okay.
So I have a question then, Shane. Didn't you just say that when we get started on this project, that will in essence end the corridor preservation fund?
Yep.
No, not the corridor preservation fund, but will end the need to purchase additional properties on Highway 89.
Thanks.
From the corridor preservation.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because then it will come out of the project.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, let's move on to the final one on Saratoga Springs on Mountain View Corridor. This is a property located at approximately 850 West Pony Express Parkway in Saratoga Springs. This property is a zoned mixed density residential property. It's been approved for 6 units per acre on a portion of the parcel and 21 units per acre on the remainder. Properties needed for Mountain View Corridor about 14 acres, and we had it appraised at $3.85 million. And let me show you what this looks like here. So this is the property where the corridor goes through it. This property has about 84 units entitled to it. So the property owner, if he so chose, could pursue 84 residential units on this on these 14 acres. If you do corridor preservation math at a pretty conservative figure of $300,000 each, you're looking at about $25 million and 84 relocations should the development be allowed to happen. This was there before, and we are hoping to help him work with the City of Saratoga Springs to relocate the density out of the area that we need for the future extension of Mountain View Corridor over into his remainder property. And along with that, we've been working really fast because time is money in the development business, and between the time when we met at the Corridor Preservation Advisory Council and today, we have we have reviewed some additional expenses that the property owner has incurred because of him moving his development out, redesigning, legal fees, etc. It's an additional $92,000. So the amount that we're asking for obligation is $3.942. So $3,942,000. I come to you today with a favorable recommendation from the Advisory Council to prevent this imminent development and preserve this piece of property for the future Mountain View Corridor.
So the number changed as of this morning, is that what you're saying?
As of yesterday,
yes.
Provided us with, we asked for the additional information. It took some time. We had to go through, there was a number that was much bigger than this, and we tried to identify in good faith the amount that was reasonably attributable to our action of acquiring this property.
Make a motion to accept the revised number, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
And seconded that the now 3.9?
3,942.
Okay, 3.9 million be approved for this acquisition. Further questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you, that's also been approved.
Thank you.
I guess you've got item number 9 here, a property exchange?
I do. Okay, so this is, now we're going to move even further south to the cloudy city of St. George.
Hey, sunny.
Cloudy and chilly.
I think that was special for you somehow.
Yeah, this is the sunny city of St. George. All right, so in the spring of 2016, UDOT completed the design of the I-15 milepost 8 to milepost 10 project. And this project included the widening of I-15 and then a new underpass at Red Hills Mall that connected the frontage road on the north side to the frontage road on the south side. And that happened last year. So during negotiations with the property owner, let me give you a map now. So this is the property that we acquired for the project. And during negotiations to purchase this piece of property, the property owner mentioned the fact that we had some property over here that we weren't using anymore because the project is finished. And so they proposed that we do a trade of his property for our property, and in the meantime allowed us to, while we pursued approval to exchange properties, allowed us to move forward and complete the project. So we're here today. The property, UDOT's property, is about twice as much as RGM's property. But if you, I don't think we have if you go to the street view, A, it doesn't have any access, and B, there's about a 10-foot slope from the grade of the road down. So that means there's going to be a considerable amount of fill that's going to need to be brought in.
Not anymore, it's already filled.
From the other construction project.
Yeah.
And so we had appraiser look at it, and they reduced the value of our property by about 50%. And so it's basically equivalent. And we are coming to you today with a request to approve and exchange property for property so that we can finalize this.
So that would exchange the yellow for the blue.
That's correct.
But we've already occupied the yellow.
Yes. That's correct.
Without paying for it.
Do it every day.
There are many mechanisms that we have. There's right that we use to be able to do that. We have
I think it's awesome.
a right of occupancy or a permit to enter and construct, which is what we did, pending.
Right. Pending this resolution.
Exactly.
Okay.
And if you
choose
not to, then we would just have to pay money.
We would purchase it out of the project funds.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve this property exchange. Any further questions or comments?
I got a question. They bought a lot of equipment in there and fill that in. Was that us doing it? Because it's our property.
The purple line?
Yeah, blue, all that.
No,
Man, they had equipment in there for 3 weeks. Carrying dirt and leveling it up.
I know that they've been doing a lot of work down there. It was a huge hole. It was 8 to 10 feet deep, and I know that they've been working there. I know our contractor probably did waste some material in there. The owner anticipating this said, yeah, if you need to waste material, let's do it there to reduce that slope. I still think there's quite a significant slope. It's still probably 4 or 5 feet deep at least there. So.
But the contractor, I can't say owner because we own it, but the prospective owner has been doing that work.
Yes, most of them, yes.
Are they going
betting on the cotton?
Oh, jeez.
Okay, but they're not going to send us a bill for that.
No.
No. Any further comments or questions?
Did this underpass accomplish what was intended?
Well, according to Washington City and St. George City, they have about 10% reduction in the traffic for the I-10 exit 10.
This was to take off to provide some relief for the interchange.
We call the Costco exit.
All the time.
Right.
It's just
Okay,
booming.
so
I
it
know.
seems to
I know.
have done what it was supposed to do.
Unbelievable growth.
Well, I personally use that road every day and it reduced my travel time about 5-6 minutes.
Good, good. Well, with that, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just like that.
Okay, now we have a number of reviews and reports that we need to receive. We have some administrative rules that we want to go through. There are 3 of them. I think, Robert, you're going to walk us through this first one on the snow tire and chain.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Commissioners. We bring to you an update to R920-6 to review. This is our rule. It's been in the past about snow tires and chains, and here's an overview of the changes we've made or suggested to make on this rule. Number 1, we've modified the way we define traction devices. In the past, we've specifically said chains or elastomeric cables. We're now going to use the terminology traction device because there's so many items available on the market now that we can't, nor do we want to limit
list
what
every
can or
single
can't
one
be
of them.
applied. Yeah. Number 2, we created a Class 1 and a Class 2 traction section for roadways. Basically, this is just a way to allow the regions to help identify which types of vehicles need to have traction devices attached to them on a given section of highway. The Class 1 covers vehicles over 12,000 gross vehicle weight, and the Class 2 is all vehicles using that facility. On the types of vehicles, for heavy vehicles, there's really not a lot of change other than we allow all sorts of traction devices at this point. With this writing on 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive vehicles, there's no significant change there other than we still accept the M&S or all-season tires plus a new classification that's become fairly popular
It's called the 3 Peak Mountain Snowflake classification of tire, which is it's a really softer compound and works a lot better in snow and ice. On 2-wheel drive vehicles, we're asking that people use the 3 Peak Mountain Snowflake tires or traction control devices rather than the all-season tires. Those are the changes that we've suggested on this, and we reviewed it with Highway Patrol and law enforcement, and they're supportive of it, and it reflects the way we're trying to operate the roadways and keep them open during inclement weather.
Any questions for Robert?
Yeah, sorry, help me just a minute. So the rule is something that we manage, or is it part of statute?
No, this is a department rule, so the law says that we should bring our rules here to review them with you.
Okay.
Once we do this, we will go into the administrative rulemaking process.
Okay, thank you.
And then the legislature has the chance to review those proposed rules. It goes out for public comment, allows them to bring some in for hearing if they see one that they feel is outside the boundaries of the statute. And so there are commission rules, which are yours and you approve. Most of the rules are department rules in terms of how we administer the statute.
Great, thank you. Just clarification.
Yeah. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Robert. Rob, you've got 2 to go through with us, I think.
I'm lucky today.
So are we. Well, thanks for being here.
Good morning, commissioners. It's good to be with you this morning. I have a couple of rules that I want to talk about. I'll introduce myself quickly. I'm Rob White, Director of Construction with the Utah Department of Transportation. The first rule I want to cover is 916-2. It's the pre-qualification of contractors. As you may or may not know, we pre-qualify any of our contractors that are bidding on projects over $3 million. And at this time, we found that it's necessary to make some changes to that to improve and to react to some of the conditions that have come up recently. There's 3 major changes that we're talking about here. One of them is to improve the contractor's overall performance on projects. We've added a safety factor to our pre-qualification, and so the contractor has reported to us for years their safety numbers, EMODs and OSHA reportable accidents, their rates, and we are going to put that into our pre-qualification amount. And so if they have a higher, better safety rate, they will get higher amount of pre-qualification. That's one of the changes. The contractor performance also will be more of an issue in how much they get pre-qualified for. So if you do a good job on the projects, get higher ratings, you'll be able to pre-qualify for more work. And then the other part of that contractor improvement is to prevent contractors from bidding if their average contractor rating falls below 70%. And so that's something that came up in an audit a couple of years ago, where DFCM has the ability to do that, and we had a different process, but we're spelling it out more specifically in this particular rule. Another concern that the rule is trying to address is to allow smaller contractors the ability to gain backlog and develop into larger contractors. And so instead of in the past where we've had an overall limit on what they can bid up to, including all their projects, so say if they had $20 million in pre-qualification amount, they would only be able to bid up to that amount, and then they couldn't bid anymore. We've changed that to a per project pre-qualification amount, and so a contractor, if they have a $20 million pre-qualification amount, they can bid on any project up to $20 million, and we're not going to look at their backlog. We're going to allow them to continue to bid on any project of that size. We feel that the industry has controlled itself pretty well by bonding, and there's not a need for us to really police that, and that gives those smaller contractors the ability to grow. One of the things that we've seen over the past several years is we've had a lot of really small contractors and a lot of pretty good sized contractors, and our middle sized contractors are not there. And so we hope by doing this that we'll have the ability to have more middle sized contractors and get better prices on those types of projects. So,
okay. Now, with let's say they have the pre-qualification to say the 20 million that you're using, and they get a job for the 20 million, and then they're bidding on another one for say 10 million. would they then be able to begin, if they won that $10 million contract, would they be able to begin that if the previous project were half done?
Yes, they would still be able to bid that.
So they would be allowed to reach their $20 million limit, if you will, based on new projects that they've bid, but old projects that they're working on that they've largely completed.
Right, they would just be able to, it would just be a per project, and so we would look at what their pre-qualification amount is, and if their pre-qualification amount is greater than the project value, or what we expect that the project value is going to be on that one, then they would be able to go ahead and bid it. We would look at all that previous project work and what they have under contract currently.
All right.
So it's easier to administer, and it gives our, like I said, our smaller contractors the ability to grow.
All right.
The other thing that the rule does, the modifications to the rule, it does is clarify the process of pre-qualification for joint venture bidding. In the past, this hasn't been very clear in the rule, and we've just cleared that up a little bit. So that's Rule 916-2. Are there any further questions?
Rob?
Yes.
These projects are open to all the contractors throughout the United States and international firms, or just limited to the state of Utah?
Projects over $3 million, it's open to any contractor throughout the country and throughout the world for that matter, but we require them to come in and pre-qualify prior to bidding on these projects. So we actually have several hundred contractors that are pre-qualified with us, probably about 40 to 50 that actually bid on projects. So we have pre-qualified contractors from all over the country.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
The second rule is the progressive CMGC rule. Progressive CMGC, or as it's known across the country, progressive design build, is another contracting method that we're looking at to improve our innovative contracting and have just another tool in our toolbox, excuse me, to be able to administer projects quickly. The progressive CMGC is, as the name states, is similar to CMGC, other than the fact that the designer, the contractor, instead of working with our designer after they are selected, it's a qualifications-based selection, just like our standard CMGC process. But different than that, they are allowed and they are required to bring their own designer with them. In the past on CMGC, we found that our contractor and the designer who we hire sometimes struggle working together, and we're telling our contractor, please bring your own designer to the table, and we're going to, you have the ability to choose somebody that you want to work with. And so that's an advantage over what we've had in the past. This is a little tweak to the CMGC, something that we're looking at doing. A project that we kind of have in mind for this is the US 89 project that we've talked about quite a bit today. And so it's a way to hopefully improve that process so that our contractor feels comfortable working with that. And it also shifts some of the risk to the contractor, where if we hire the designer, we own the design, we own that risk. Where if we have the contractor bring that designer, they own the designer, they own that risk. And so it reduces the risk accordingly. So what we've done here is we've tweaked the CMGC rule. We felt in talking with council that we needed to get in and give ourselves approval for this through the admin rule process. And so we've tweaked the CMGC rule, and the changes should all be in your packet there. Are there any questions on progressive CMGC?
Any questions? Rob, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we have 3 additional reports. I guess Nathan was going to walk us through this program briefing that Shane talked about briefly earlier. And then we have the very distinct privilege of hearing from 2 of our great regions. And Nathan, you're up.
Thanks, Commissioner. Welcome, Red Peter. How do I move this to the web?
Normal computer.
It's just there.
Close Adobe like normal.
That'll work.
There.
We can go back to that one. Let's just open it. Go ahead.
It's right there, Nate. Just click the tab at the top. There you go.
Thanks, Commissioners. As Shane was describing the access to the myriad of information that's available, we've tried to contain it into one location that's easy for multiple users, from the public who's looking for things to you who are trying to give information and share information about our programs and the funding that you're responsible to approve, to those within the organization that are trying to define and share information. The way to do that is we have what's called the program briefing. You may recall from past years that we've moved the annual workshop into a format that was digital, and we also had a program briefing that talked a little bit about the TIF and what was coming up and where it was last year. The program briefing looks like what's on your screen. It has 3 different tabs, and I just want to help walk you through some of those today so that you know where to find information and you can prepare for the next 2 months as we do our workshop. In the first tab over here on the left, it's called TIF and Planning. In this particular tab, it will look much like some of the information you may have seen in past years that were here. In this tab, it's all graphical display to help people find what they're looking for, but there's tabs over on the left-hand side that contain all of the funded projects under tab number 1. And I'll just give you an example of what that looks like and what maybe you can find here. So let's assume that in tab number 1, we're looking for a project on I-15 that's under construction or ready to go under construction. Here's one that I've highlighted right here on I-15 that's from 123rd South to SR201. If you go in and click on this, it pulls up this tab. You can see it's a $180 million project. And if you want details about this project, you can click on the link and it'll open the fact sheet. And then these details will represent information that you've seen when you originally programmed this project, as well as additional information about what it is that we're trying to do out here on this northbound section. Now, you may remember from some of those different areas that there were a number of intersections that needed some improvement as they connect with the interchange, and some widening that needed to happen along the road as well. So all of that information can be found here in a short briefing. You can find timing for the project, etc. Lots of information that's easily available by just clicking on that project fact sheet tab. Now there's a number of other things that people want to know about this project, including yourselves, and so you'll notice it's pin 12587. The reason that matters is on the left there's a link to the current TIF project list, and this goes into our database and pulls out information directly from our database related to the project. Within that database, we have categories of projects that are either funded but haven't started design yet, or they're under design, or they're in construction, and they're starting to load. So every project that's on the map shows up here in the particular locations where they are, and we'll look at this one we were just looking at, this 12587, and pull it open for you. And what you'll see then is that total funding that was on the front page. You'll see some information here about cash flow, where it's what it's expended in each year and how those funds will work. You'll also see information over here about funding for the entire project and what's available. And then down below here, you'll find all kinds of information, like how much money we're spending in each of the different categories of the project. For instance, in this particular case, you can see there's been 667 $1,000 spent on right-of-way so far, and you can see there's a total of 1.5 million. And to Commissioner Kramer, yeah, those little zeros really throw you off.
They do.
We did not spend billions on this. Yes.
Thank you.
So we'll work on that. As well as dates and times, delivery, what the project manager did, etc. And this just pulls up the information you saw on the map. So there's myriad of information for anybody that's trying to find out all kinds of things related to the project. Again, if you click on this link, it opens the fact sheet that you saw from the front page, so everything stays connected. So in trying to use this process and what's available for you, that's what you might find in this particular area. In tab number 1, always graphical to find where you want to go, and then all the access to the data is provided in that graphical screen. In tab number 2, we spent a lot of time in this tab the last 2 years. I'll just pull down this category for you so you can see a little bit what these different colors might mean. You'll remember that there's 7 categories of projects that we look at funding with the TIF, with the Transportation Investment Fund. Of those 7 categories, they show over here on the right, and they all have a different purpose and need. That one we were just in, you saw on the other side is there, now is represented here. So if we want to pick one of these and show the information that's there, you'll find the exact same type of details. So if we pick this particular one here, not sure why it didn't just open on the front sheet, but here's the information associated with it. It's maybe because it has more information than can fit on one, but it's a $13 million project on I-15 to do that widened facility that's there. And if you want the fact sheets, you can pull them out and open them. In this particular case, the fact sheet isn't available yet, so it tells you that. It tells you where to go. So let's go back here to the main map. So projects that are funded in tab 1, projects that are under consideration in tab 2. Now what you might remember is a sheet we gave you last year in tab 2 that had those 7 categories broken down with the set of projects that you said were of highest priority to you to consider funding. That sheet is now under that link, and here's an example. So under your widen existing, you have a list, under your new facilities, the list, etc. All the way through the 7 different categories, including the studies. They're listed here. So this is the short list, if you will, of those projects that you thought were of the highest value for consideration of funding if there were additional funding to come to the TIF program. Last year we put that all in one sheet, and you kind of look at the sheet. You can find the same thing here this year, but this also gives you live access to all of those different projects. Now the question always comes about, what about my project if it's not in that list? So 2 things come for that. Tab 3 tells how projects are scored. Those of you that have been on the commission before, remember and look at that information about how it's scored, and over here on the left, you can find details about the code and information about how you came to that selection.
Now this prioritization system right here that has been developed and used the last dozen years or so, that's the one addressed with this legislation where another couple of considerations will have to be added to this to adjust for that final score. But this is the basis from which we will work.
Correct.
To make these additions. Is that correct?
The commission will go through a deliberative process, then rulemaking, and we'll update the rule, commission rule, and policies around this.
Okay.
Yeah, so Commissioner, as Elizabeth alluded to earlier, it could include things relating to transit and other components to how you would derive the highest value. It could include things related to access and economic development potential. And those components do not exist in there today. So this is the current process. This is where we'd be working from to update. If somebody's looking for a project and it wasn't on the list of the short list, then there's tabs down here that have both the unified plan for highways and the unified plan for transit. So in terms of where you can find information, just trying to help people move through those tabs. in the program briefing is that tab on the left. Okay, so that's what's in the TIF and planning tab. That a majority of people look for information there associated with high visible projects. That's where most of them are. In tab number 2, then is the program and process, and this is what we'll be doing next month with the Transportation Commission. Is we'll be going over the available funds that you can program in different categories and where they're at. So we have started working on tab number 2, and we have populated all the information in here so that you can start looking at where we're at. So for instance, today you're going to hear from, I think we switched the regions around. Is it 1 and 2 today?
Right.
Okay, you heard from regions 3 and 4 last month, and you'll hear 1 and 2 today. That ends the accomplishments and needs reports that started back in September.
Right.
And you can see that as we move into March, we will now program based on all of the information that's been presented to you over the past 4 to 5 months. Gives you a little bit of feel about what the schedule is for how we move this DIP process. You'll also notice in here that currently when we talk about what's approved and people are bringing information, all the things that are in gray or in the current year and approved or in blue have funding approved for them. Some of them may not be actively started yet, but they have funding approved. All the items in orange are those items which we will be bringing requests to you to fund either new projects or new programs at this commission workshop. Any questions on that? Okay, under here, we'll go through a lot of these, but the money that's anticipated to be there for this year, 19, 20, 21, they'll all be here, but you can see the federal money that's there. You'll be able to find the same thing in the state, for the state money that's there, and you'll be able to find the same thing for a combined information regarding all of the funds. If you remember last year, both the federal, the state, and the TIF, and how they all break down in totals for you to consider funding requests that will come in this year. So that's what's in the program and process tab. You can spend your time looking in there and getting ready for next month. There's been a number of projects that have slight fund differences, the different available balances have been moved forward, etc., and they reside in that middle tab. So then in the program briefing, there's also one other tab that's over here on the right, and it's called the projects tab. And within this particular tab are all of the different programs that you approve in the left-hand tab with the specific projects that are assigned to them. And so, for instance, Transportation Solutions, we talked a little bit about it on a number of times. If you want the list of the approved projects or projects that are new and somebody wants to go there, you'll be able to pull up and look in terms of region 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., about what they want and the year that they want to put those types of projects in request mode. What you'll also be able to do is see up here there's a tab for regions, and if you go to that tab for regions, this is where the regions workshops that they're all doing this month, it's where all of their information is loaded and resides. So Commissioner McConkey, I think you were in Region 1 yesterday when they were doing their workshop. Region 2 had theirs last week. As they finish those workshops and get their information ready, this is where it resides. Accessible to the public, accessible to you, and you'll be able to. So what we hope that does is brings the opportunity for everyone to come to one place within our strategic direction and find all information about the projects. It's been carried in a number of different places across the board. Tons of great people working hard to pull all these different systems together and also tie it to a graphical display that's so helpful when you want to find something. You can almost always just go right here, it's on the web, and get right to the numbers or the details you're looking for. That's kind of an overview of what you can expect to see in the next 2 months as we finish out this legislative session and move into the Commission's programming and project tabs in March and April. I'm happy to answer any other questions or help you find anything you need.
Questions or comments, Nathan? Please, Donna.
Because this now all lives here and you're using it internally, but it's also available for external use, are you looking to measure the use of the general public, or are we just happy that it's there and we want everybody to know.
We can tell how many people hit the site. If
Okay,
that's
can
what
you
want.
differentiate between internal users and external users?
I'm not sure. I don't know. if
With
we've
Google,
ever done
with
that.
Google Analytics, you can tell where the users are coming from.
Okay.
We were not, I wasn't thinking about it, I just went through, I'm being asked to clean out my office, not because I'm being, fired. But I ended up going through a big cabinet that had all these commission workbooks.
Yes.
Going back, I can't think of how many years, and I could never get rid of them. And I got rid of them yesterday, it was hard. But that's what we're replacing,
Right,
so we're trying to make
right.
it easy, more convenient for the commissioners, for the UDOT folks. But by the way, let's also make it available to the public.
Okay.
So, to be honest, I think I would struggle imagining on a bad day, somebody from the general public saying, let's go take a look at this. Maybe county commissioners or city mayors and staff may find this a useful resource. And if that's the case, I'm glad you did it.
Okay, thanks.
So, Commissioner Law, the reason that Carlos City is able to get rid of
Yeah,
that
that's
is
it. I
because
just
of the
wondered.
Transportation Commission link,
Yeah,
prior
they're all
step
on it.
workshops. So Carlos can now find all of those books that he wanted right here. So they're stored in your webpage.
I have
along with all
I
of
think
it.
I went back to 2004 in my office yesterday.
A lot of levels of archaeology there.
In anticipation for the upcoming workshops, as the new person, should I go back and look at those or just be happy where we are?
John Norton.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner, if you have a little bit of spare time to just become familiar with the information, we'll
As we
step-
have right here.
Yes, we'll step through this in the workshops.
Okay.
But if you have a chance to kind of don't memorize it, just try to know what the different types of information that's there, so that when we go through it, it'll be a little bit easier to understand.
I've made flashcards for the codes.
Donna's committed.
And if you have any questions over the next month as we're preparing for that workshop, feel free to contact me, as I'll kind of be leading the effort over the next 2 months to do the workshop.
Looks
So,
good.
Carlos, I have a question. Is the security measure built into this website that nobody will hijack the information and manipulate or try to?
Everything the state does on the information technology comes under the security oversight of the State Department of Technology Services. And so the security of the state's information system services is a major role for that DTS department. So I can't tell you how they do it, but I know they do it, and they're very passionate about it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Nathan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mike
Great
Hussey.
job of
Yes, Mike's great.
cataloging all of this information and saving all the trees. I couldn't believe the big 3-ring binders we used to get. But this is amazing work. Very
Yeah.
well done. Thank you.
Interactive, it's good.
Yes. Chris, you're on.
Excellent.
I know
I'm
you've
really
been
excited
prepping for this all day long. Here we go.
I was disappointed that I was at the very end of the agenda. Honestly, I wanted to go first, and then I could have watched everybody else. I was talking to Lisa, had the pleasure of sitting next to Lisa through the course of the meeting. She told me that I can have 10 minutes of her time. So we're going to go for, I'm going to see if I can make
So you're gonna go 12 minutes then,
You know me too well. I am excited to come and present to you. We've had a great year in Region 1, and I'm excited to present to you today our needs, our accomplishments, and many of the things we've done. And I would be remiss if I didn't recognize that I stand here representing over 200 great and amazing people. So I get to stand here and talk about the great things that they did. It's not what I did. And Nathan's here, I think, to either, I don't know if he's gonna heckle me or help me if I misspeak. So anyway, Nathan represents those, and Jason's right on board to heckle. So anyway, I'm excited to just spend a few minutes today telling you all of the work that we've done over the course of the year, and we'll see if we can do it in 12 minutes. If you ask questions, we might go to 13, okay? This graph right here, you've seen this before. This is a representation of the pavement trends of our current pavement condition in the darker colors, and the projected trends in the pavement conditions for the next several years. We're really excited and pleased. If you look at that trend, it is working its way up on the good bars. We're reducing the amount of yellow bars. You'll notice on the top end that we're really close to meeting our 95% poor quality roadways, and we have some projects we're going to try and do that. That red bar is really tough to move on 715 miles, but we're really excited and happy about what this chart is telling us. It's we've just gotten our updated numbers from Nathan's group. They worked really hard to get those updated for us in projections. And if you look at that in the years 20 and 21 and 22, we're really pleased to see that we're getting our good condition pavements above that goal mark. So we're happy about that. I want to show you each year as part of our process, we have target surface area targets for the amount of roadways that we treat and that we cover. And if you look at this chart, at first glance, the two middle bars are below our goal of 330 surface areas, which is not acceptable. But if you look at our 4-year average, we are right close to what our goal is. Our 4-year average is 323. Our target is 330. There are a couple of projects in 20 that aren't showing on the list, as we're trying to quantify exactly some of the TIF projects, how much pavement treatment will be done incidentally with our TIF projects. And so our goal will be over, or our average will be over 330. Also today, if you notice closely in the de-obligation portion of the agenda, there was $4 million that came back to Region 1, and that will be programmed in as a purple book. That is not shown on these surface areas. So until we get that money programmed, we won't show it on the list. So we're confident that we're meeting the goals that we've set, that you have set and anticipate for us to meet. And not only do you see it here, there's 2 different ways that we measure to make sure that we're not missing a step in doing the wrong treatment and doing the wrong project in the wrong location. I think another thing to note is that you see some pretty hefty purple in 18 and in 19. And we've had some major projects that, as we've gone into and identified the pavement condition of those projects, we've had to do treatments which were a little more intensive than we had originally planned, and that's why the surface areas are what they are, particularly up on Trappers Loop. This summer we're going to be reconstructing Trappers Loop, and we've done that with our pavement funds to be able to do that as we began investigating the engineering behind that project and behind the pavement. It was not in a condition that we could just overlay with what we would call preservation or orange book funds. And so we had to make a pretty tough decision to do a significant project out there to improve the condition of that pavement and be able to live and extend its life and make that road function the way it needs to. So next, I still call it level 2, low volume roadways. We are also really pleased about the turnaround on this chart. And if I were to show you the previous year's predictions, our pavement condition for the level 2s, before we got the influx of the added 5-cent gas tax, our pavement condition in the level 2s was taking a sharp dive, particularly that green set of bars. Instead of coming above the dash line, it was taking a significant dive, and we were having a really hard time maintaining that condition. Now that we've had a couple of years of low volume road funding, we've been able to turn that trend around. You can see that those roads are looking amazing, and we're excited about it. We've been able to just go out and take care of some roadways that have needed some love, and we've been ignoring them for a long time. So we're really excited about what the existing condition is and what our planning group has been able to predict for us if we continue working down this path. So we're pleased about that. This is a graph showing the surface areas for the low volume roads. This is not exactly the same as for our high volume. We don't have a surface area target for low volumes. Instead, at the current time, we have a dollar amount that we are projecting onto all of our low volume roads. But this is what we've done in 17, what's planned for 18, and what is missing on the bar is what we have in 19. The Code 1 percentage or the Code 1 portion of what we will do, we don't know what that is going to be yet, so I can't predict it based on how budgets work and how snow works and how different factors. So that will have gray in it as we move forward and we get a better idea on what happens between now and when we start 2019. So we'll get that up a little bit, but we can't predict that right now. This is just a list of the last set of approved transportation solution projects that the Commission passed last year. I don't have a status, I just wanted to go through these. Each of these projects are either in design, either construction or constructed. And the top one, the turnaround at Manaway, is 95% complete. There's just a couple little things that they're waiting to finish up in spring. The dual off-ramps in Roy will be added to the I-15 Express Lanes project. The Weber River Bridge project will be added to the US 89 freeway project that we're going to work on. The dual right lanes at Harrison Boulevard, we're in scoping and have we're starting on design on that. The culvert study, the overhead sign repairs are underway. The barrier extensions, it has been bid, and the drainage improvements in Mendon is getting ready to bid. So those projects are well under the way, and they're really valuable projects for us, so we appreciate that. Transportation Solutions opportunity for funding. Yesterday we outlined Commissioner McConkey was at our workshop. Commissioner Barlow wasn't able to make it, unfortunately, so I'll go meet with him and give him a one-on-one. It'll be a lot better entertainment probably than having to listen to us for 2 hours, huh?
Yeah, it was a good workshop.
It was a good day. We have prioritized our upcoming transportation solutions request that we will make of you, and we'll have that for you in the upcoming March workshops. But we went through that with them. We have a couple ideas. We're going to make a few updates and modifications to that before we bring that to you for recommendation for funding. This is a list of the contingency projects that we have programmed or completed over this past year. This is an amazing opportunity that we have to work with communities and help. And the biggest piece I want to draw your attention to is the middle column, which identifies communities that we've been able to establish some partnership at some funding level. That's a funding column that they are doing either funds that we have given to that city to participate in a study or to accomplish a project that's important to them. And so it's a huge value to us to be able to work with the community and accomplish something. I'll draw your attention to something on SR 13 about halfway through, just below halfway across the page. There's an SR 13 13600 North drainage improvement for $4,000. If you look at the relative magnitude of that project on this list, it is small, and it is a very small magnitude. And when the county called us after the floods this spring, they said, you know, we have this intersection, we really need some help on it, we need some funding. And we went back, you know, we're like, well, I don't know, it looks like what you're trying to do has got all your water in it. How much, we're not sure, right? Because sometimes everybody just comes with a checkbook, and so you want to make sure that this money is being spent appropriately. And they came to us and said, well, we need $4,000. Done. Right? And for them it was huge. For us to be able to participate, it was a big deal for them, and for us it wasn't necessarily. And this is an opportunity that we have to work with communities and accomplish some things that they can never accomplish without our help. Are there any questions of any projects that you see on that list that you might want me to speak to?
So Chris, you just
Yes.
don't give the money, you oversee or make sure the standards are taken care of.
That's correct. So we'll enter into a cooperative agreement with the community. Sometimes we'll do it and ask them, they'll give us money to do some work. Sometimes we'll do it. We'll look at each project specifically and say, what's the best way to accomplish the work that we're talking about? And so we do. If we're going to give them money, they still have to get a permit from us, and our permit group will review all the standards to make sure that they're complete. There are cases like the US 89 on the very bottom study, the US 89 one-way couplet study. We're going to participate with Logan and with the CMPO to do a study to look at one-way couplets on that corridor. So as part of that project, we will be in the room and we'll be involved with them. We'll have a project manager assigned to that to coordinate with them. So we don't just give it to them. Often in the agreement, we set up the terms and conditions.
Thank you.
We will give you this money if these following situations come to pass. So yes, that's a good question. Okay, if you don't have any questions, I just want to talk to you about a few highlights. We are excited. We are nearing completion of the EIS on SR30 in Cache Valley, and this is a diagram. I think, Carlos, you have a meeting next week to talk with folks from Cache Valley about the project. But this is a diagram of what the EIS has been able to identify as a need, and what we believe we're going to be able to justify for a project moving forward. The project across the lake will range from 5 lanes, 3 lanes, 2 lanes, and 4 lanes as you move from east to west. And this is a great project, significant safety enhancements here. We've been working really hard with the community. The community wants more. I will be open. The community wants more than we're going to be able to give them. We're going to be able to meet the transportation need with a roadway section which is not necessarily what the community believes they need. So
they want the full 5 lanes.
They want all 5 lanes all the way across. And because of our need to make sure that we spend taxpayer dollars prudently and carefully, as well as our need to be able to justify any wetland impacts, we're not going to be able to build what they would like us to build. And regardless, this will be a great project. It's funded for construction in 2021, if I recall correctly, and it'll be a great benefit to that community. Right?
So in dealing with the marshland, we deal with it, or they have to locally deal with it?
We deal with that. This will be our project. Right now, we're working, putting together our mitigation plan, our minimization plan, and our avoidance plan to present to Corps of Engineers for a 404 permit. We're excited about the West Davis corridor this year. We've finally got a rod. I mean, this is a big deal. It was a long time ago in this year, but this was a big deal. We are nearing completion of an opportunity to wait to make sure that everybody's in agreement that this is the least damaging practical solution for the project. So we are now have all of our folks working diligently, working to eliminate risk. We're purchasing right away. We're identifying utility conflicts and beginning discussions with utilities primarily and major property owners along the corridor to move forward with this project, and it's funded to begin. A couple of the notes, if you look at the corridor features in the bottom, this will connect 20 miles of trail along this corridor, and the community is excited. We cannot build this project quick enough. Yeah, and we continually get questions: how fast can you do this? When can you do this? Can you get it done? So we will probably, I haven't laid out the tour yet for May. The commission visits Kaysville in May, which is in the heart of this project. We will probably take a tour at least of a portion of this corridor. Shane?
It says it's funded to be constructed in 2020. That's the term constructed in 2020 is a little loose. We will begin construction late 2020. The majority of the work really occurred in 2021, just to be very clear about our current cash flow.
We're liberal with 2020. That'll probably be utility work and some preliminary work that we would do. The majority of our funding doesn't come until even 22, really, before we start to see funding to do major construction here. Another highlight, these are small little projects, but they're exciting for us. SR 193, we completed a short extension from 2000 West to 3000 West. We completed that. I met with the city just the other day. They are amazed at how many cars drive on this. They are amazed at how much of a bottleneck it has reduced here. This is just out west in West Point. And we're excited about that. We completed it without fanfare. It was, what's the right terminology? This was a paperless bid to some degree. It just did not have an old plan set. It was designed 3D, built 3D, and just one of those times when our teams do great things and you just don't even hear about it till it gets done, and even then you don't hear about it. We're also nearing construction on 2000 West. We'll have the last season. About half of it's constructed. We're going to construct the second half of 2000 West, a major improvement for the community out there. Also, we have 2 bridges on I-15 that we're building right now. They're under construction. We're getting ready to put decks on these 2 bridges, and I hear all the time about how excited people are, particularly for the Layton Crossing Bridge, and how much of an improvement that's going to make for the community and the mobility there. Very similar to the project in St. George that we were talking about earlier. How it gives cross access across the intersection. Should provide significant relief. Challenges over the next several years. We have approximately 15 miles of very old concrete pavement that runs through the Centerville area and through Layton, Clearfield, Roy areas. You will probably see from us every year a project on I-15 to do rehabilitation on some of this concrete. We have funds in out years in 2022 and 2020 and 2022, is that right, Nate? Okay, 2022 and 2024 to do an asphalt overlay on these in case we don't have an opportunity for a reconstruction in here. But you will frequently see a big chunk of our rehabilitation dollars go to this stretch of highway each year. Underneath this bridge, we have a $750,000 project that will happen this summer just to go in and fix these panels so that when we do the Express Lane project, this will survive and we'll be able to get it through. This is not abnormal for what you'll see all the way along that concrete in the corridor. That's going to be a challenge for us just to continue to manage and maintain in the future. This was built in the 60s. It's very old concrete. It's doing well. It's doing great. I drive it every day. But at the same time, you know, it's going to take a lot of help. Also a challenge for us, we talk about this. I wanted to put this on a map. We have the Highway 89 project that's going to be under construction in 2019. The Express Lane extension is also going to be under construction in 2019, and we will be ramping up efforts. And so on the West Davis corridor, we have potential there. As it starts, we'll be finishing up the other projects, but we have at least two of those major corridors that are significant commuter routes that will be under construction. Fortunately, the I-15 project will be a night work project, and so there won't be any lane restrictions on that one during the day. And then Highway 89 is a day work project, and so we won't have any lane restrictions on it at night. So we're working hard to make sure that neither of those projects create significant impact on the other, and that we can continue to maintain the commuter traffic and minimize the congestion because of those. Just wanted to bring that up. Also, if you look out in West Weber, West Davis County, we have a lot of needs for east-west corridors there. Between 5600 on the top at SR 97, SR 47, 1800 north, and then on our priority listing, you'll see the 193 extension and the Antelope Drive extension. Those are all projects that we continually hear from the community. We'd like you to have those roads.
I was just going to ask you to mention the 3 different letters you've received in the last week.
Well, and I didn't put those on that. So if you look at so we just received letters from Farmington and from Kaysville, and what's the other one? You got one?
It was on the 193 extension.
Oh, okay, on the 193 extension. So the community is very active in saying, that's great, we know that you're working on these north-south corridors, and we want you to continue doing that, particularly 108. But we have east-west needs that are great as well, and so don't forget us. There's a connector down here in this area right here where my mouse is, where Farmington and Kaysville are asking us to help them find a way to make a connection between the future Shepherd Lane interchange on I-15 and the future Shepherd Lane interchange on West Davis corridor. So when we have our tour in May, we'll make sure that you're aware of those and show you where those are. Explain that in more detail. The last challenge that I want to just bring up is when we finish the Highway 89 project, that will be a freeway, and it will end the freeway. So south will be the Highway 89 project. And this graphic's a little hard to read, but we'll widen this, make this a 3-lane freeway all the way from the south up to I-84. We have traffic signals at I-84, and so we're going to have a freeway turn into an arterial. And we know that on day one, when we finish the 89 project, we will have congestion at Highway 84. And so one of the big questions that we are asking ourselves, and we are undertaking a study, it was on the contingency list in front of the study, to say, where's the first traffic signal? Is it at I-84? Is it further up the hill in South Ogden? Is it at the Harrison and Washington intersection a little further north? Where is that, and how do we deal with the congestion that comes with a first traffic signal, and what this interchange should be? This interchange reconstruction is on the long range plan in phase 2, I believe. It's $200+ million interchange reconstruction. The last time we studied it was a long time ago. We have a lot of new ideas and a lot of different ideas, so we're going to study this to see if there are opportunities that we haven't thought of in the past and how we can make this work. And we're going to see if we can find some short-term solutions to a long-term fix. But we just want you to know that this is probably something you'll probably start to hear from the community saying, okay, now what, when we do Highway Unite. That's my presentation for this morning. Do you have any questions for me?
Questions for Chris? Thank you.
Nicely done.
We'll have plenty of discussion coming up in the next couple of months for sure.
Thank you.
Chris, thank you though. We get tired just reading all the stuff you're doing, but thank you for all you're doing.
Starving intersection.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Lisa, it's good to have you here with us today.
Yeah, Brian's taking a well-deserved vacation, so you get me.
Where are those snowplows?
Well, you can define that.
Like that.
Yeah. So, you know, like Chris says, we have an awesome team at Region 2 who does all this work and makes our job pretty easy, makes us look good. So, I want to send all thanks to all of those folks for what they do. Starting with our pavement stuff, we're in a really good spot here with our high volume system. We have a lot of miles that are in the good category. We don't have the projections shown on here. We are projected to raise the green a bit. That red's a little bit difficult to get rid of. We do have some sections that are poor, and they're going to be poor until we can reconstruct them, like some sections of I-80 up to 13th East right now. But we feel pretty good about this. We're in the mode right now of maintaining this status and with our projects as we move forward.
Lisa, before you move on, does the 2017 numbers account for 215?
Yes.
Yes.
It does?
This is the most recent update to that.
Okay.
So yes. So this is our surface area. Our goal is 400 per year. You can see 2018 is really high. The reason for that is that we get credit for them in the years that projects close. And so the 215 project is in 2018 because it'll close this year. So that's a lot of surface areas, even though it was done in 2017. You can see our average is going to be over the 400, and projecting the years out, we're a little under right now. We do anticipate with good bids and the obligation to be able to add projects to bring those numbers up so that we can maintain that. Our low volume system, it's pretty small. We only have 140 miles of it, but it's really benefited from that added focus, the money that's dedicated to this directly. We spent a lot of time out west, SR 36 and SR 73. We have a couple sections of those roadways left, and then we'll move up to SR 150, but that green will keep going up, and those roads will be in good shape for quite a while. The surface areas that we've done on that, you see they're all rehabilitation, and that's why they've been neglected for a long time. So we're getting those fixed up. As those projects get finished, you'll start seeing some preservation work on those. The one thing that's not shown on here is we do use some maintenance funds every year. We do some chip seals to help bring up the surface area coverage with this program. A new measure that we're moving to with the pavements is a sustainability index, and essentially what this does is it brings the life of the pavement actually into the measure. Right? Not all surface treatments extend the life the same way or the same length of time. So this will allow us to track and make sure that we're putting the same amount of life in our system that we're losing. So you can see the goal is 1 here. We do have some years where we're low. That's to be expected, just where we're spending the money and the projects that we're doing. But like I said, with the surface areas, those numbers will come up as we add some projects out in the future as well. So transportation solutions projects. Most of these projects are funded and underway. A lot of them will be done this year. We've had the opportunity to add quite a bit of asset work to our pavement jobs, take care of some culverts, some drainage issues that we see that affect the pavement, so it makes sense to do while we're there. We've also focused a lot on barrier replacements, things like that. This program's also allowed us to partner with our communities on some projects. So this first one on the list, the Jeremy Ranch, Summit County's actually constructing the roundabouts at the bottom of that interchange. Yeah. We have some ramp work. We're working with them to get that work done. So this is a great opportunity for partnerships along with the contingency program, and that project will be advertised later this year.
What number is this here? Is that 10 million?
This is our list of proposed projects. There's a couple I want to point out here. For Commissioner Kramer, we do have an overhead sign replacement project.
Thank you, Lisa.
Some of our worst signs are up on the east side of 215, so we'll take care of those.
Every day.
What is he going to put in
it? I just want to take Governor Herbert to drive by a few times and enjoy it. Thank you very much. So
yeah, they're definitely some of our worst, so we're working on getting those replaced. Another area that we're working on, and I know you've heard a lot about this, is the going out to Tooele. We have a lot of congestion out that way. So the one project we have on here is the Ox Lane. Essentially, we're adding a lane between SR 201 and the ramp to SR 36, so that we can eliminate some of the weaves, allow some additional space for cars to get by who are still trying to get west past this interchange. And in the event of a crash, there will be more room for people to maneuver and to move those cars out of the way. So that's really important. I know Commissioner Bittner was here from the county earlier. He's pretty excited about this project as well.
So Lisa, is there any official at 3 o'clock drive in Tooele? The pin number 16461, no, 16763.
Oh yeah, so we have a paving job out there, and so we've added some pipe replacement and some signs to that.
So the name is a 3 o'clock drive?
Yes.
Only opens at 3 o'clock?
It's open twice a day.
Road. Yep, it's open twice a day. Are there any questions on any of these other projects?
3 o'clock could only be once.
No,
yes.
That's the name of a mountain out there. They're called 3 o'clock. And we always used to say it takes you till about 3 o'clock to get to the top.
Oh, okay. So thank you.
Good thing to have a local.
Some of the local lore we use.
Chair, before Lisa moves on, I think something to point out between this list and the prior list, there are a lot of add to projects. This fund allows the region to really do what is in the best interest of a project. Yeah. Not just the pavement, but this gives them the chance to fix a sign or fix drainage or whatever that might be for a very reasonable amount of money. But we're there, we're going to do the right thing one time and not have to come back. And this fund allows us to do that. So we appreciate this funding source.
Every meeting we see the value.
Our contingency program, you can see we started the year at 1.9 million. We have a current balance of about 160,000. I just want to note that in the event that we do have something else come up, we can be flexible. Some of these projects are placeholders while we work with the local communities on defining what the project ultimately will be. And some of them haven't started yet, so we can move. If we have another sinkhole or something like that comes up, we spent a lot of money last year on those events, right? So, and there's one on this one too. We also have a lot of studies, and we may not have funding from the local communities, but a lot of those studies are done in coordination with them very closely. One that's not on the list that we funded last year was the interchange up at 6200 South on the east side. We're working very closely with Cottonwood Heights and Holiday City. There's a lot of development that's going to go on up there, and so we're working closely with them. Some of these are similar. Do you have any questions on this list?
Commissioner Kramer would like you to go up to one more decimal point.
Yeah, I knew that he would like the 62 cents and this.
Yeah, the 26 cents is important.
Exact, right?
We're engineers. I keep
Exactly.
we're engineers.
It feels better to be that way. So we had a lot of really great projects happen last year. There's a couple I want to focus on. We had like the best week in November that we could have had. One of the projects that we opened up right before Thanksgiving was this interchange at 70th South Main Deer Highway. This one started construction in May and we opened it in November. So really cool added benefit to that community there. I drive it often, so I really appreciate it. The next one is Mountain View Corridor from 5400 South to 41st. This is a brand new road section, and it was really great to see the ownership that the community had in this. The project team did a really good job engaging them throughout, and I think many of you saw the opening activity of the 5K, the big event that was coordinated with West Valley City. That was very well received and got a lot of positive feedback there. Our 106 South interchange tunnel, you'll remember we closed 106 South for couple weeks to get the tunnel in place.
Yes, it has.
And the original plan was that we'd have the tunnel in place 106 South open, but the roadway connection to Monroe Street, which is to the north, wouldn't be complete till this spring. So with the help of Mother Nature and a really awesome project team, they opened it early before Thanksgiving. So that was a really exciting event too.
Yeah.
And the last one that's near and dear to all of our hearts, 215 opened right before Thanksgiving as well. It was a 2-year project. It went really well and we're really happy with the result there. So a couple of our challenges. First one, the SR201 to SR36 extension. Heard a lot about this. We got the opportunity to go out and meet with the public last week on this very topic. They were excited to see that we had some plans going forward, that we were paying attention to their needs and concerns. The goal here for this next year on this is to refine the concept a little bit more, working with the county and the folks out there, to be able to bring you guys a proposal to fund an EIS to get going on that project. Down below, our SR201 corridor study that we've started, there's a ton of development happening out west along SR201. And we have some developers coming to us with proposals for connections, roadways, interchanges, these sorts of things. So we're doing a study in coordination with the cities, developers, Kennecott out there to come up with a future plan. We're also, and the study covers up from I-15 out to Tooele. So we know that when Mountain View Corridor ties into 201, our interchange at 215 has some issues. So our intent here is to bring a list of projects that we will discuss with you and maybe get funded in the future. Bangor Highway intersection improvements, we do have the priority list that we've been using for several years now. The goal here is to really look at the north section. We're getting a lot of questions of what that looks like. We have a concept. We're going to make sure that concept still works. And refine it a little bit more. What's going on is we have development around all of these interchanges, and we want to help prevent having to buy homes and those things that are new in that area. So that's Bangor Highway. You'll be hearing more about that one as well. I-15, we have the 2 projects, the southbound Ada lane that's starting now, our northbound lane and interchange project at 90 South. That one ends at 215, so this is the study to go north. We know that once we get that problem solved, we have issues to the north. We're trying to find out what the solutions for that area is. We also have a study with Region 1 that goes from 6 north up into Region 1, so there's a couple of those going on. And then we have the 2 EISs that you guys are well aware of. Little Cottonwood just got notice to proceed on the contract, so they're going to be hitting the ground running here quick. And then our I-80, I-215 foothill on the east side, we're calling it our Parley's EIS. So we'll be coming back to you with some proposals and updates on those as well.
Mr. Chair, I have one question for you. It's okay. If the commission were to pull up the unfunded TIF list, would they see projects to fill the issue from 215 to 600 north, or I-80 on the east side, or Little Cottonwood Canyon? Are they in there?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
So with these studies, we'll be able to populate that.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you
very
much.
well done.
Very much.
Yeah, busy, busy.
Hallelujah.
You know, when you're the fastest growing state in the country, we gotta be the fastest growing transportation commission, UDOT in the country too.
We have to be the most responsive.
Yeah.
For sure. Joe, you're gonna give us a report on our annual survey?
If you wish.
Yes. If you can keep it to, I know you've got a lot of slides in there. I went through them, and if you can tell us what people are thinking of us, that'll be very helpful.
Just tell us the good stuff.
Okay, well, that
No, I
won't
know
take nearly
this
as
is
long.
stuff.
Whoa.
Oh dear.
Is this set for?
Joe doesn't have his orange pen.
Up here? Right there?
I think he did.
There we go. Okay. So let me just give you just a little bit of information on this annual survey that we took. As you know, we take this every year, and we try and follow much the same methodology each year. So it really gives us an apples to apples comparison from year to year, and we can really chart progress and growth or lack of growth, depending on what happens. This particular survey, the methodology of choice we use right now is telephone survey. We are looking at exploring the possibility of online surveys. There is a little bit of an apples to oranges comparison there between the two, and so we're looking at that into the future. But right now we use a telephone survey. It does include cell phones, and allows us to get a really good demographic mix of the state, very accurate demographic mix. So if there's 6% of the population in a certain county, we get 6% of our respondents from that county, and we try and break it also according to age and gender. So we try and get as accurate a demographic mix as we possibly can. It's 600 respondents we get across the state, and it's the plus minus on it is about 4. So it's a pretty good, pretty accurate. We feel very comfortable with it in what we get from it. Now let me just give you just a quick overview as we go into it. Anything in the 60s, if you see something in the 60s, that's good. It's good. If you see numbers in the 70s, it's excellent. If you see numbers in the 80s, it's incredible. And if you see numbers in the 90s, and there are a few, it's what Shane likes to call crazy town. It doesn't happen very often, but we do get a few of those.
Let's see what we're talking about.
Also, there are a number of the questions that are asked people to rate them on a 1 to 7 scale, and with 1 being kind of the negative and 7 being the outstanding. So in those, as we go through this, the 4s are good. If it's in the 4s somewhere, it's good. If it gets down into the 3s, we're going to be concerned. The 5s are great, and 6s are just terrific, and there are a few of those. So that just to give you some background as we go through this, and I'll now go through it as quickly as I can, just to give you, but mostly give you a chance to look at these numbers. The first question we ask is just to kind of get a sense of how they're feeling about the government in general. Overall, would you say that the services you receive from your government are worth the taxes that you pay? And the number here, 79, you see the sort of we peaked it at 81% in 2013. We took a kind of a hit there, but this is just an overall state government. People feel very good. That's 79% is a very strong number. It certainly reflects people's feelings about their state government and that they're getting value for their taxes, and that's an excellent report. We asked, this was a new question that we asked this year, and so we'll be asking this in the future, so we just give you kind of a sense, but it did give us, we were a little surprised on a couple of the numbers there. How important is for government to focus on the following? Well, we weren't surprised at all that 96% of them feel that roads are pretty important. We were pretty pleased to see them say that 10% of them felt that the government needs to focus on transit. That's a good number. That's a solid number. It's not reflected again later, and I'll point that out to you when we get to it, and whether or not they actually use transit. But the fact that they think that that's an important thing is a pretty good thing. And then we also were heartened by the fact that 65% of them felt that bike and pedestrian trails were very important. That was a bigger number than we were expecting, so that was an interesting one. Now, here's the one that we kind of draw from a great deal, and that is their favorability. How do they feel specifically about the Utah Department of Transportation? Now, we did do something this year that we haven't done in the past. In the introduction to the survey, we took special care to make sure that they understood the difference between UDOT and UTA. We felt in the past that there was a little overlap back and forth,
sure.
and because we took that care, that may have affected this number a little bit this year, but you can see that we're up 3% from where we were last year. 76 is a very strong number. Carlos has challenged us to get to 90. We're working on it. But, 76 is an excellent number for a state agency for people to feel good about the Department of Transportation. Now, the next several questions we asked about UDOT performance, based on what you know have heard, how would you rate UDOT's performance in the following areas? And this first one, how does UDOT do at building safe roads and bridges and encouraging safe driving? 85%, a very solid, an outstanding number. They think we're, and you see that number is up there very high. There's a slight downward trend over the last 3 years, but that's probably negligible. 85% is a home run. How are we using innovative methods to keep Utah roads flowing smoothly? Now there's a solid hit right there. A pretty solid.
I don't think it has to do with the innovative methods. I think it has to do with
the flowing smoothly.
That's exactly.
They see the cones and that's it.
Thank you for saying that, Commissioner, because that's exactly how we feel. We don't think it is as much a reflection of innovation as it is the fact that the roads aren't flowing smoothly, and that will be borne out by another number I'm going to show you in just a minute.
It's in there.
How does UDOT do at preserving and maintaining existing roads and bridges? Good, solid, 74 in that 74 to 75% range. Excellent number. They feel good about that. Building and maintaining bike and pedestrian trails. Now, this one's down just a little bit. And it had been holding steady up in the high 50s, and now it's down. We wonder, and we're going to be watching carefully to see over the next coming years, but we wonder if that is just more a reflection of awareness on the part of people that we're doing this, and they haven't been as aware of it in the past, and now they are wanting it. And you'll see that.
I think that's the biggest deal. I think we've done an awful lot with the trails, but I think more and more people are wanting trails. And as they see us make a few more, then they're saying their appetite for them is larger than our ability to create them.
Well, I
think that's reflected here.
That's what and there's a number there's one that's coming up in a minute that seems to bear that out. How are we at providing timely and accurate construction information? We're good, very good. It's a good, solid number, but that's certainly one from my perspective that I'd like to see us beef up just a little bit. And then snow removal, again, we're rock stars. We do a great job there, and we have steady, solid numbers from year to year.
Yeah.
Now we ask them specifically. We ask specifically about the surface conditions of our roads, and what you'll see here is a reflection of our priorities. The first one we ask about is the interstate freeway system, and those numbers really high, good numbers in the high fives. Then we ask about state roads, again the next level of priority, and those numbers are just down just a little bit. And then we ask about the rural roads, which
that's a surprise.
Honestly, there's a little progress there, but a little lower. We think some of our rural roads may get confused with other community roads, not being our roads, but it does really reflect our level of priority on maintaining surface conditions on our roads. Now, we did ask, this is another new question that we asked, and it was really quite surprising to us. that the express lane, also known the HO, provides a benefit to me when using the interstate. And overwhelming number, 78% say yes, it does.
Glad you didn't call me.
And we didn't call you, you weren't on the list.
No.
But that was a little surprising to us because we wondered if perhaps people didn't see it as a benefit if they don't use it. But clearly they do. Now we ask about the system performance. Here's the one that we asked about bike lanes.
Wow.
And it talks about the accessibility of bike lanes. And again, there we see again that number. I think it reflects what you said, Commissioner. We think that's what it reflects, is that they're more aware of them now and they want them.
Yes. Yeah, more and more people are using the trails, and so there's never enough.
That's exactly.
And it gets reflected here.
Now, here's the one that I've referred to a couple of times. What are people saying? Clearly the trend is, has your commute gotten better?
Worse.
No. Over time, it's getting worse. And you see the number getting worse is going up, getting better, going down. Again, a reflection of congestion and a reflection of construction. So those numbers are not, they're trending in a direction that we sort of anticipated. Now we're asking about the travel, your various behaviors. Are you changing? Well, do they change? You can see as gas prices have gone down, no, they don't make decisions on travel based on the cost of gasoline. Do they make it on reducing air pollution? A little, not a lot. Do you make it on the amount of time? Yes. There's a self-interest there, and they do make travel decisions based on the amount of time. Do they do it to reduce energy consumption? Not so much. Do you do it to provide opportunities to exercise and improve your health? No, not really. The self-interest, reducing the amount of time they spend in traffic, that's the one that really gets their attention. We asked about specific travel-wise behaviors. They're very happy with trip chaining. That makes sense. The shifting travel time, that makes sense to them. We're a little concerned about this number down here that is declining, the use of public transit. That's when I said that they think the government should be involved with it. It's a high priority, but they're not using it. In fact, they're more inclined to bike or walk than they are to take transit, at least according to these numbers. Here's where we entered Crazy Town. I'll go through this pretty quickly. Basically what these numbers tell us is they are very, very aware of our VMS messaging, the campaign that we do, and the overhead signs. They're very, very aware of it. They know what we're trying to do. How could you miss it if you're
driving down the freeway?
It's hard to miss. What this tells us, Commissioner, is that this is such prime real estate for us for messaging, and we have to protect that. Yep. This is my favorite number because it tells us not only are they aware of it, but they're saying that it is affecting their behaviors in an overwhelming number, and that's something that we really cling to, because people will come to us and say, "Why are you doing this?" Well, we're affecting behaviors, and that makes a huge difference. Basically, the same. These numbers are about our Friday messages, where we give statistics mostly, and basically the same kind of numbers reflected. We asked them, how many of you are always wear your seatbelt? 93%.
All right.
That doesn't quite reflect what we're seeing.
Has anyone ever said no?
Yes, some do. There are some that say never. Well, no, nobody says never. Some that say seldom, some that say sometimes.
The wrong 600.
Yeah.
This is a little higher than what our observational studies are telling us. But anyway, that's just for you. Now, some public opinion numbers. Would you say that the UDOT is responsive to public needs? 87%, an extraordinary number, either probably or definitely. Are the projects of high quality? 89%.
Wow.
Overwhelming number, probably or definitely. Based on what you've heard, how would UDOT rate these areas? on a 1 to 7 scale. Trustworthy, right around 5, and it's been hovering there. A good solid number for trust, for being fiscally responsible. Also very high for transparency, a little lower. And that's an area that we're going to try and be a little more aware of. A little lower, not horrifyingly low, but still better. How do we do it? Minimizing delays during construction. We're declining there. So that's an area where I think
area of concern.
Well, there's an area of concern, and these are the kinds of things we look at and say, okay, what can we do better at this, or is this just a reality of construction? Obtaining up-to-date traffic information. Some interesting things here just to point out to you. This is where people are getting traffic information. I was stunned to see Google Maps be that high. I mean, we knew our overhead messages would be 84%, radio station 68%. We know that. This was stunning to me that Google Maps was that high. Apple Maps down here a little lower. Our own UDOT traffic app down here. UDOT traffic website here. TV station, social media. But that's one we need to take a real look at and see how can we harness that in getting information out. And this one has to do with how do they get construction information, not necessarily traffic information. This one is more, again, overhead message signs. That's such important real estate to us. Radio stations, TV stations. You can see a wide variety of where they get their information. So that's basically it. There's some other things, but do you have any questions about what we've done?
You're asking the right questions.
Yeah.
Nice to say how many.
I'm not going to belabor it.
600.
It's been a long meeting, but
pretty good.
on the apps, you have to read the app in the car, and we're promoting safer driving. So I know I don't do it on my cell phone in the car because I'm trying not to look.
Well, it's a quandary. What we try and urge people to do is look at the app before you leave. Get in your car, look at your app, and then go.
But then when you send last-minute messages, I see Mr. Gleason there that, he gets on and says, oh, this has happened.
Well, it is.
Well, unless I'm listening to the radio, I don't hear it.
Yeah, no, you're right. We do, and we blame John for a lot of that. So we'll be working.
That's helpful.
Well, that's helpful.
I enjoy seeing John on the TV.
Yep.
It's great stuff. Okay, we've had
Thank you,
a great meeting, a lot of good reports. This sets the stage for the next couple of months as we look at our workshops and determine the expenditures and programs that will be approved over the next several years in our meetings. Now, let's look at the upcoming meetings next month, in March 15 and 16 in Springdale, and then back here at the complex in April, the 12th and 13th. That's when we will concentrate on our review of all of the material that Nathan walked us through today. We should be familiar with that, know where we're going and what we've got available. So everybody spend a little time before the next meeting looking at that online material, getting that in our heads, so that we don't have to necessarily raise the basic questions in our workshop. We can then accelerate our questions to the more important issues that we'll have time to concentrate on. So take some time and review that material over the next couple of months. We've got a commission assignment that the Joint Highway Committee, that Gail McKechnie used to be the appointee for that. And the last meeting that was held up in Region 1, and so we had Wayne attend that. So I have this thought. The Joint Highway Committee meets throughout the state over, what does it generally meet, about every quarter?
Quarterly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
About quarterly, so about 4 times a year, and they're in different places around the state. My proposal to the commission would be this: rather than having one person assigned, to go, I would propose that we have commissioners in the area where the meeting is being held, and we just would rotate that assignment to attend, representing the commission, so that if it's in the north, either myself or Lou or Wayne could attend. Like the next meeting is held on the 26th of April in St. George. So I would suggest that.
I'd love to go. That's my region, isn't it?
Let's pull out that
I
map.
would suggest that somebody living perhaps in St. George
I have attended all this,
could arm wrestle Meg for the
No,
privilege
it's
of
okay. I
going.
just thought I'd volunteer.
But that would be my suggestion to the commission, rather than one person assigned to attend throughout the state.
I think it's a good idea.
That being the case, you should be 100% attendance at that committee meeting.
Yeah, we ought to be able to get people there because, for example, April the 26th in St. George. Do I have a volunteer that would like to attend for the commission?
I'm in town, I can do that. I have attended all these in St. George.
In St. George. Nagi, if you'll plan to attend that one in April.
I will gladly do that.
And then with Heather, we'll coordinate when the next quarterly is, and we'll make an assignment. If it's up here in the north, some of us from the north can attend that, but the commission will be represented, but not by the same person each time.
Okay.
Will the commission take that as a suggestion?
You want to put on a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Well, don't you just decide?
I make the assignment, but is everybody in agreement that we kind of rotate that around?
Yep, that's right, as long as Danny
Let's
gets
do that then, and next time Nagi will attend, and sometime when it's up this way, either Meg or I or Lou or somebody
I'm
can
happy to
attend.
go.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there anything else that we need to bring up?
I do want to ask if you
about May.
would reconsider May 10th and 11th. If not, that's okay. I have a conflict. I'm going to be out of the state.
Will all of you take a look at your the May
If you
schedule?
can, it's okay.
And maybe we can finalize that next month as we're thinking about it. Currently it's scheduled from 10th and 11th in Kaysville. I know that Chris already indicated he was trying to put some things together for the visit. So that might be a conflict, and we just may have to miss.
If it's already down the road, I'll just have to miss it.
Okay. But look at that schedule. We'll
And just let
finalize
Heather
that
know?
in March.
Okay.
So the next meeting will be March 15 and 16 in Springdale, and we'll get information from Heather on that meeting.
Mr. Chair, just a brief outline of what we're planning that day. 2 full days, there's a lot of work to cover. And I know that we, in the past, have missed a tour on that meeting, and we do not miss a tour again, so we plan on a tour. So we're probably starting around 9 o'clock on Thursday for a tour. We'll have staff update, which will be the first workshop. And once we'll have some lunch, we'll have staff update meeting, and then we're trying to put together some sort of walking tour of around Zion or around Springdale. So if you're all certainly welcome to attend all of those with us. And then the next day will be the commission meeting.
Are we staying in Springdale?
Yes.
Proper? Okay.
So we'll probably plan 2 nights then for those of us that travel down.
Unless you're flying, unless we've talked about you traveling on the plane.
Yeah.
Okay.
Plan on 2.
All right. I will entertain one last motion.
Move.
Boom.
Got it.
Thank you all for hanging in here with us, and thanks to all the commissioners. Please drive carefully going back home.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman, great job.
Good job.
I'm gonna be watching the videos tonight, I don't know about you all for this.
Certainly.
Oh.